Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. One Piece. While Nami is still young, invite her on my boat at the beginning. Chapter 81. In order to avoid affecting Ningchuan and the others' actions to deal with the devil, King Gordon decisively ordered the evacuation of the entire country. Just one day, the whole country of music became empty. In the once bustling streets and alleys, now only Ning Chuan and Shanks are left. Ning Chuan is very clear about the devil's strength. It's strong. It can even be described as terrifyingly strong. In the original plot, the lineup that defeated the Demon King was quite luxurious. The Shanks Pirates plus the two Four Emperors groups of the Straw Hat Luffy Pirates serve as the main offensive force. Together with Fujitora, Kizaru and other masters, he was able to completely defeat this demon. One can imagine how terrifying this Demon King's strength is. However, facing such a powerful Demon King, Ning Chuan, who had a system, didn't take him seriously. He can infinitely improve his own strength. A mere Demon King, nothing to mention. Ning Chuan stood in the central square of the palace, holding the volume of forbidden music in his hand, and he had some expectations for the Demon King in his heart. I'm going to start. Be prepared and don't let the devil go to other areas and threaten the people. Ning Chuan looked at the red-haired pirates and explained seriously. Shanks nodded and already put his hand on Griffin at his waist. As long as the devil appears, he can slash out his strongest sword. As Ningchuan Gurgur's fruit power began to surge, he unfolded the forbidden movement, clasped his hands, and began to sing the forbidden melody. As Ning Chuan's song sounded, a powerful force began to flow out of his body. The next moment, the entire palace was shrouded in a mysterious atmosphere. The melody of the forbidden movement is melodious and grand, reaching deep into the earth. Just when the forbidden movement was sung to the end, the demon seal deep underground in the palace suddenly burst. A terrifying dark aura emerged from the ground. Accompanied by a deafening roar, the Demon King who had been sealed for a long time finally escaped. As the figure of the devil gradually appeared, a mass of pitch black, 100 feet high. The whole body exudes a strong dark aura. That pitch-black body seemed to come from hell, and its terrifying power made the surrounding air tremble. The devil's eyes burned like flames, and his ferocious face revealed endless ferocity and greed. Staring at Ning Chuan who sang the forbidden movement. The moment it got out of trouble, it immediately locked its gaze on Ning Chuan. Because it felt the familiar and powerful power of the singing fruit. This is the power that has sealed me for hundreds of years. The Demon King roared, his voice shaking the surroundings like thunder. I will seize this fruit for my own use, and let everyone enter the dark world I created and become my slaves. The Demon King roared angrily, waved his huge palm, and rushed towards Ning Chuan with destructive power. Looking at the Demon King who was exuding a terrifying black aura, a sneer appeared on Ning Chuan's face. He was not afraid, and his body instantly burst into golden light. Almost instantly, Ningchuan transformed into a golden Buddha. Golden light shines in all directions, forming a strong contrast with the dark aura of the devil. You're just trash, but you still dare to scream. Ning Chuan shouted coldly, and the golden light in the form of a giant Buddha burst out instantly. The golden light collided fiercely with the dark power of the Demon King, as if they were competing to compete. The ground of the palace shook violently under the collision of two powerful forces, and rocks flew. Has it started yet? Shanks and others looked at the Demon King breaking free from the seal, with a look of shock on their faces. They thought that the Demon King was very powerful, but they never thought that the Demon King could be so powerful. Just feeling the terrifying aura, Shanks and others felt troubled. Cut it! Shanks clenched the griffin in his hand in an instant and made an extremely terrifying slash. His men also started attacking at this time. Countless attacks hit the Demon King, knocking it back dozens of meters. However, despite suffering so many attacks, it did not change the target. Still focusing on Ning Chuan, the Demon King forcibly stabilized his body, roared angrily, and rushed towards Ning Chuan with destructive power. However, Ning Chuan was already prepared. The moment the Demon King came out, he directly pressed one hand on its head. A powerful shock wave burst out instantly, slamming the Demon King who rushed towards him to the ground. The Demon King's body hit the ground heavily, causing a cloud of dust to fly, and the entire palace building collapsed. Ning Chuan didn't give the Demon King any chance to breathe. He took turns with his left and right hands and beat him violently. Each punch was blasted out with a powerful shock wave, and the golden Buddha light flashed in the air, as if it was going to dispel all darkness. Suppressed by the golden shock wave, the Demon King struggled to fight back. But every attack was easily blocked by Ning Chuan. I pinned him to the ground and rubbed him for a while. However, Ning Chuan soon discovered that the damage caused by shock waves alone to the Demon King was very limited. Although it was beaten very badly, the actual damage was not high. It's quite durable and a good toy. Ning Chuan sneered and prepared to give this big guy something fun. I saw that his left hand began to activate the ability of frozen fruit, and his right hand ignited hot magma. Try this trick. Ning Chuan snorted coldly, and his fist containing the power of ice and lava struck the Demon King at the same time. Boom! A terrible explosion erupted instantly. The power of ice and lava raged crazily in the Demon King's body. The freezing cold air froze the Demon King's body into ice, and the fiery heat of the lava exploded the big lump of ice into pieces in the next moment. The Demon King's screams were particularly shrill amid the explosion. Half of the demon's body disappeared instantly under the impact of the two fruit abilities. Ning Chuan watched the demon's body being smashed to pieces, with a trace of disdain on his face. But something was beyond Ning Chuan's expectations. The Demon King's recovery speed was unexpectedly fast. Just give it a moment to breathe, and it will return to normal again. But compared with just now, the terrifying aura all over his body has weakened a lot. The recovered Demon King was furious, his eyes burning with dark flames that seemed to devour all horrors. He opened his huge mouth, stared at Ning Chuan, and let out an extremely harsh roar. I will cut you into pieces and never be reincarnated again. When Ning Chuan heard this, he slapped him with a big lava slap. Most of the Demon King's head melted instantly. Only you. Having tasted lava and ice, let's taste the taste of falling apart. Ning Chuan instantly activated the ability to split the fruit from his hand inserted into the devil's head. The next moment, the Demon King's body was immediately split into countless pieces, scattered around. However, this is not enough. Thunder Fire Sword, it's your turn. As Ning Chuan muttered something softly, the Thunder Fire Sword flew to an altitude of 10,000 meters in an instant. The terrifying power of thunder was attracted from the clouds. The body flying towards the Demon King fell hard. Boom! A burst of thunder swept across. The Thunder Fire Sword strikes a terrifying blow carrying thunder. The power of thunder was like the thunder of the 9 heavens, instantly covering the fragments of the devil's body. A thunderous burst of destruction. Everyone in the Shanks Pirates watched the terrifying scene of Ning Chuan beating the Demon King. The power of ice, lava and thunder is everywhere. They all couldn't help but swallowed a mouthful of saliva, feeling terrified in their hearts. What if in the naval battle a few days ago, Ning Chuan used the power to defeat the Demon King to deal with us? Then can we survive? The purifying power of thunder filled the air, and the entire battlefield was enveloped by this power. Ning Chuan was keenly aware of it. Even if it is bombarded by thunder, the devil still hasn't completely disappeared, and its aura is still lingering around. This demon seems to be immortal and no attack can completely destroy it. This demon is really troublesome. But, can I also control the demon's immortal body? Thinking of this, Ning Chuan began to carefully observe the demon's immortal body. He knew that the devil's immortality must have some secret. Ning Chuan decided to observe the demon's recovery process more carefully, hoping to find a way to master the demon's resurrection. He calmly watched every reorganization of the devil, and gradually discovered that the devil's recovery stemmed from an invisible force. For this invisible force, Ning Chuan couldn't figure out what this was for a while. After observing for a long time with the hockey of insight, I had no choice but to use the power of the system to help. System, start settlement. Congratulations to host for successfully observing the source of malice in the world for 10 seconds and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to host for successfully receiving a refund for the 100,000 seconds of observing the source of malice in the world. Host's understanding of the source of malice in the world has improved. System sounds are heard. Only then did Ning Chuan figure out that the power supporting the demon's resurrection turned out to be malice from the world. As long as the evil in the world remains, demons will continue to be reborn. If I also absorb this source of malice, wouldn't it be possible for me to be resurrected indefinitely? Just like the 5 elders. Ning Chuan's mind turned quickly. Although I don't know if this is possible. But he decided to give it a try anyway. If it happens, wouldn't he have the ability to be resurrected infinitely? Just do it. At the moment when the devil recovers, Ning Chuan once again used the power of the split fruit to split it into countless pieces. Continue to observe the demon's resurrection process. 1 minute later. System, start settlement. Congratulations to the host for successfully observing the source of malice in the world for 1 minute and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to host for successfully receiving a refund for 10,000 minutes of observing the source of malice in the world. Host's understanding of the source of malice in the world has greatly improved. System, continue settlement. Half an hour later. Congratulations to host for successfully acquiring the ability to absorb the source of malice. Host can use this ability to refine the devil's body. Hear exciting news from the system. Ning Chuan's face finally showed a hint of excitement. Did you finally succeed? Immortality. Without any hesitation, he directly began to collect the malice around him and transformed his body into the body of a demon. System, start settlement. The settlement direction is to reduce the influence of maliciousness on my mind. This time, Ning Chuan directly improved his mental cultivation in the process of transforming his body into a demonic body. After all, he is not like this crazy devil, mind consumed by malice. Congratulations to the host for successfully resisting the invasion of the source of malice for 10 minutes and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to the host for successfully resisting the source of malicious attacks and receiving a refund of 100,000 minutes of cultivation. Host's resistance to the sources of malice in the world has been greatly improved. System, continue settlement. The progress of my own demonic body has also been settled. In the process of Ning Chuan's body transforming into a demon body, Ning Chuan continued to use the system's ability to return cultivation. Minimize the impact of the devil's body on your own body as much as possible. At the same time, when the demon's body, which had been torn apart by Ning Chuan, had recovered to half of its size, it suddenly found that its recovery speed was more than half of what it was before. The devil didn't understand what was going on. He glanced at Ning Chuan doubtfully. It was shocking to find that Ning Chuan was actually collecting malice on its behalf and cutting off the source of resurrection. Seeing this scene, the demon was extremely furious, its ferocious face became even more terrifying, and it let out a roar that shook the world. How dare you steal my power? The demon roars loudly. Dark aura surged around, and violent attacks surged toward Ning Chuan like a tide. Facing the demon's attack, Ning Chuan smiled coldly. You're useless, go and be honest for a while. The words fell. The next moment, the song, Genie is so beautiful, sounded again. Ning Chuan directly used the power of the song fruit to trap the devil in the world of Kun. He will continue to accept the malice scattered in the world on behalf of the devil. The demon continued to struggle in the world of Kun, making miserable screams. It's the power of the song fruit again. He had been sealed in the world of Songgay fruit for hundreds of years before. He didn't want to be sealed in by Ning Chuan again. However, no matter how hard he struggled, it was of no use. It's just that compared to the last time, this time it's even worse. After all, the last world he stayed in didn't have such a large number of basketball-playing Kuns to torture him. At the same time, Ning Chuan continues to collect malice on behalf of the devil, and gradually becomes an immortal demon body. Feeling a large amount of malicious power pouring into the body, gradually becoming stronger. Ning Chuan also felt that his body was getting stronger. Whether it is speed, strength, or vitality and other aspects. It's dozens of times more than before. An hour later. Under the constant settlement of the system, Ning Chuan successfully shortened the time to obtain the devil's body. He can now collect malice like a demon to be resurrected without limit. Ning Chuan was very satisfied with his newly acquired resurrection ability. To show my gratitude to this devil, let him successfully refine the body of an immortal demon. Ning Chuan prepares to release the demons trapped in Kun's world. Give it a kick. Don't let it continue to suffer from Kun. Following Ning Chuan's thoughts, the devil was successfully released by Ning Chuan. At this time, it had been tortured to the point of confusion and its eyes were blurry. Even though he had left the world of Kun, he still saw countless Kun playing basketball and dancing in front of him. Ning Chuan looked at the devil's pitiful appearance and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Poor devil, I will be a good person and send you to your afterlife. The words fell. Ning Chuan mercilessly activated the ability to split the fruit again. Split the demon's body into countless pieces again. But this time, Ning Chuan didn't give the devil any chance to recover. When the demon's fragments were twisting on the ground, trying to regroup and recover, Ning Chuan ruthlessly began to deprive it of the source of its malice. The power of the devil is constantly weakened, until the last drop of the source of malice in its body was sucked out by Ning Chuan. The devil completely disappeared from this world. At the same time, Ning Chuan's 100-foot-tall golden Buddha also turned into the body of an immortal demon at this moment. As the demon's body completely collapsed, it turned into nothing and completely disappeared from this world. The entire country of music has regained its calm. Ning Chuan stood in the center of the battlefield, feeling the powerful power surging within his body, with a look of satisfaction on his face. He knew he had complete control over the demon's immortal power. Now, he not only has the ability of unlimited resurrection, but also has a powerful demon body. He already has the two abilities of Golden Buddha and Demon Body. His strength has also increased several times compared to before. If it's not too far away, he now wants to go to the territory of 4 emperors or 5 elders. At the moment when the Demon King was completely eliminated by Ning Chuan, the citizens of the entire country of music burst into deafening cheers. Under the cheers of the enthusiastic citizens, Ning Chuan and the others were invited into the ruined palace to attend a grand celebration banquet. Although the palace is gone, but Ning Chuan didn't see any sadness on Gordon's face. On the contrary, his face was full of smiles. During his reign as King Gordon, get rid of a demon that has existed in legend for hundreds of years. Such achievements will surely make him leave a mark in the history of the country of music. His reputation will probably be higher than that of previous kings. There are such great benefits. Only one palace was damaged, and the dozens of private houses on the periphery were nothing at all. It's a party, it's a party. King Gordon, don't be stingy with your good wine. Shanks yelled excitedly. This guy is probably the one who likes to hold banquets the most on the entire island. Under the king's command, not long after barrel of fine wine that had been stored for decades was brought up. The most skilled chefs in the kingdom also cooked a variety of delicacies to entertain the heroes who saved their country. This is the highest treatment regardless of cost. Even if Marine Fleet Admiral came from the Warring States period, he would not be able to enjoy such treatment. At the banquet, Shank's eyes flashed with a cunning light. He picked up a glass of wine and walked to Ning Chuan's side with a smirk on his face. Ning Chuan, come on, let us too have a drink, Shanks said with a smile. At this time, Shanks wanted to get Ning Chuan drunk. It's a good opportunity to ask about some secrets that are usually difficult to find out. For example, why is Ning Chuan able to learn other people's fruit abilities? And why is the sword called Thunder Fire Sword in Ning Chuan's hand able to attack the enemy by itself? Where did this knife come from? Can you find someone to make a knife like this? Saw Shanks with a smirk on his face. Ning Chuan immediately guessed that he must not be holding anything back. However, Shanks has doubts in his heart. Ning Chuan also made a guess. Okay, let's cheers then. If you drink too much, whoever can't finish the drink will be punished with a drink. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Shanks' face suddenly showed a hint of joy. This kid actually wants to compete with me in drinking. Haha, let's see if I don't get him drunk and reveal all his secrets. However, an hour later, Shanks, whose face was red from drinking, looked at Ning Chuan who was still sitting there as if nothing happened, with a look of disbelief on his face. You, why aren't you drunk yet? I don't believe it. I can't drink you anymore. Come on, keep going. 2 hours later, Shanks was so drunk that he couldn't stand still. Ning Chuan, on the other hand, still looked at him with a smile. What Shanks didn't know was, Ning Chuan used his ability to freeze fruits to freeze the alcohol in his body instantly. No matter how much Ning Chuan drinks, he will never get drunk. Why do I feel like you kid cheated? The sleepy Shanks looked at Ning Chuan and couldn't help but said. Shanks, let's not talk about drinking yet. Let's talk about business. I want to invite Uta to join my team. My boat is full of children about the same age as her. With her on board, it will definitely be more lively. Shanks did not expect that Ningchuan would invite Uta on board. This surprised him. Invite Uta on board. Shanks was silent for a while, and suddenly felt that Ningchuan's proposal seemed feasible. After all, Uta was left alone in the country of music. They were also somewhat reluctant to give up. In this country of music, there was no one Uta knew well. This is undoubtedly a very cruel behavior for a little girl. After thinking for a long time, Shanks turned to look at Uta. He can't make decisions for Uta, everything must be based on Uta's wishes. Uta, what do you think? Hearing the question from his father Shanks, Uta looked at Nami, Nokigao and Kuina who had been with him these 2 days. Then he looked at Ning Chuan, who was handsome, powerful, and sang well. A glimmer of expectation suddenly flashed in his eyes. She nodded slightly, looked at Shanks and said seriously, I want to go to sea with brother Ningchuan and the others. It's really not fun to be with Dad and you guys. It's best if Sister Nami and the others accompany me. Hear Yuta's voice. Shanks exchanged glances with the other members of the red-haired pirates. They all nodded seriously. Ningchuan is by Yuta's side. There is no need to worry about Yuta's safety. All of them have seen Ningchuan's strength. Not so powerful. Wu Ta was even safer on the Ningchuan ship than on their ship. Okay, then I'll listen to you. Wuta, remember not to cause trouble to Ning Chuan on the ship. Shanks warned seriously like an old father. Uta is already over 10 years old and can take care of himself. Dad, you are so verbose. Everyone couldn't help laughing when they heard Yuta's complaints. Shanks rubbed his nose awkwardly, a little at a loss. After confirming that Uta is on board, Ning Chuan called Shanks out alone. With the help of Ning Chuan's frozen fruit, a lot of alcohol was drained from Shanks' body. Let him temporarily regain consciousness. Okay, you brat. You use this trick to cheat when you're drinking, right? After waking up, Shanks couldn't help but cursed. Ning Chuan was not angry about this either. He looked at Shanks, smiled and said, let's not talk about those unimportant things. Before we separate, I would like to make one last deal with you. What do you think? Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Shanks couldn't help but said with great curiosity. Deal? What deal? Tell me and listen. Ning Chuan did not beat around the bush and spoke directly and seriously. You teach me divine avoidance, and I'll give you a supremely sharp knife. Of course, it can't be compared with my thunder fire sword, but it should be better than your griffin. Shanks was immediately frightened by Ning Chuan's words. The supreme sharp knife. Do you still have a supremely sharp knife? Where did you get these? Did you dig up an ancient treasure? And your thunder fire sword is also in the treasure, right? Hearing this, Ning Chuan smiled and shook his head. No, I built them all myself. Upon hearing this, Shanks was stunned on the spot. What the hell, are you still a legendary swordsmith? Almost, it's just the level that beats all the swordsmiths in the world. That sword that can move on its own was also made by me. Ning Chuan smiled and said something that almost scared Shanks to death. Crush all the swordsmiths in the world. How dare you say that? Shanks couldn't help but complain. However, even though he didn't really believe it. But after all, the fact of Thunder Fire Sword is before our eyes. This made him believe it. Except when he met Ning Chuan. He has never seen anyone with a sword that can move on its own and deliver terrifying slashes. When it was confirmed that Ning Chuan was not only powerful, but also a legendary swordsmith, Shanks was shocked beyond words. How old is this boy Ning Chuan now? Not only has he gone ahead of countless people in practice, his talent in forging swords is also so amazing. Is this the boy Captain Roger was talking about, Joey boy? Shanks stared at Ning Chuan for a long time, and Chunin couldn't help but guess. Shanks, you can choose one of these supremely sharp knives. At this moment, Ning Chuan suddenly spoke, interrupting Shanks' thoughts. Watching Ning Chuan return to his boat and take out several extremely sharp knives, Shank's brows couldn't help but frown. He observed carefully and found that these supreme sharp knives were exactly the same in appearance and quality. This makes Shanks feel a little helpless and surprised. Judging from the quality of these swords, it is indeed the legendary supreme sharp knife. But for some reason, the styles and materials of these supremely sharp knives are all exactly the same. Just like the products made by machines in some technologically advanced countries. But this is a supremely sharp knife. How could it be possible to be manufactured in batches like those machine products? Shanks couldn't figure it out anyway. Ning Chuan, how do you want me to choose? Aren't these knives all the same? Shanks' words were somewhat helpless, but also revealed a hint of confusion. Made in the same place, at the same time. It must be exactly the same. Do you want it or not? I'll put it away if you don't. Hearing Ning Chuan's urging, Shanks responded immediately. Yes, why not? This is a supremely sharp knife. There are only a few of them in the world. Am I stupid? Can I not want this good thing? Because these knives are so similar. Shanks had no choice but to choose the one that was most pleasing to his eyes. Just got it in hand. He felt the power of hot lava pass into his hands. He stretched out his fingers and flicked the knife. Listen to the buzzing sound coming from the blade. Shanks had a look of satisfaction on his face. It is indeed a good knife. For a great swordsman with a sword, getting a good knife is enough to make you feel happy. Now that you have taken the knife, then hand over the god to me. Ning Chuan casually threw the remaining supreme sharp knife on the ground. It's like throwing away garbage, without caring at all. Seeing this scene made Shanks feel inexplicably sad. This is a supremely sharp sword. This kid treats them like this, it's really too much. If other swordsmen in the sea who don't have the most powerful swords see this scene, I'm afraid they will want to beat Ning Chuan. Looking at the scene where Ning Chuan wasted a lot of money, Shanks was heartbroken, but there is nothing to do. After all, these knives belong to Ning Chuan, not him. How to deal with it has nothing to do with Shanks. In desperation, Shanks had no choice but to choose to be out of sight and out of mind. Let's go over there and I'll teach you how to avoid it. Shanks walked ahead helplessly. From time to time, he would look back at the supremely sharp knives that Ning Chuan casually threw on the ground. I secretly thought it was a pity. Soon, Shanks brought Ning Chuan to a cliff. Ahead is the endless sea. It's a good place to practice sword skills. I don't know where you got the idea that I have mastered the divine avoidance technique. Originally, I kept this thing to deal with you, but I didn't expect that it will be handed over to you now. It's really God's will that makes people do this. For Shanks' words, Ning Chuan couldn't help rolling his eyes. You can't even kill a demon with this divine evasion move, so you still want to keep me. Shanks, are you a little too confident? Shanks was a little embarrassed by Ning Chuan's words. Cough, cough, you've gone too far, kid. I have just practiced this move not long ago, so the power is not fully exerted. If you give me some more time, I can kill the devil. It's just not as easy as you. Shanks' last words were spoken in a low voice, as if he was afraid that Ning Chuan would hear him. If you say that, there is some truth in it. Ning Chuan naturally knew the power of the divine avoidance move. Shanks, who has just practiced this move, will definitely not be able to use its full power. But in the original work, Shanks relied on this trick more than 10 years later. With one easy blow, Kid's entire pirate group was killed in seconds. Stop talking nonsense, let's get started. Finish practice early and go back to bed early. Listening to Ning Chuan's relaxed voice, Shanks was a little helpless. If anyone else said this, I would be able to practice divine avoidance without much effort. Shanks will definitely give him a knife to avoid being angry. Let's see how he practices. But Ning Chuan, this perverted boy, is different. He really has this possibility. Forget it, just think of it as a knife test. It's not worth getting angry with this kid. Anyway, it's me who's angry. In desperation, Shanks took out his newly obtained supreme sharp knife. With a generous injection of Conqueror's Haki, the whole supreme sharp knife seemed to come alive. The magma lines on it seemed to start dancing, driven by domineering energy. Feel the change of the supreme sharp knife in your hand. There was a hint of surprise on Shanks' face. He has never tried using the supreme sharp knife to evade. God avoids. With a low command, Shanks swung his sword out. The powerful force seemed to tear apart time and space in an instant. The sea was easily split, the rocks were shattered by the sword energy, and even the clouds in the sky cracked open due to the pressure of Conqueror's domineering force. The scene was extremely spectacular. Ning Chuan stood aside and carefully observed Shanks's every move using the power of knowledge and knowledge. System, start settlement. Congratulations to the host for successfully observing the divine avoidance for 3 seconds and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the 30,000-second observation god avoidance cultivation level refund. Host already has a deep understanding of sword moves and divine avoidance. With this sword attack, Shanks has been slowed down to 3 seconds. However, it is still too fast and cannot be practiced directly. It needs to be practiced several times. Just when Shanks was about to ask Ning Chuan if he needed to demonstrate it to him again. But he saw Ning Chuan start to imitate his actions just now. Start practicing right away. All go. No way. You've only read it once and are you ready to master God's avoidance? Things were just as Shanks suspected. Ning Chuan only read it once and started practicing divine avoidance according to his own understanding. He summoned the Thunder Fire Sword and took a deep breath. He activated his Conqueror's Haki to the maximum, and then slashed out with his sword. Suddenly, a violent Conqueror's domineering sword energy began to fly out from Ning Chuan's sword. But the momentum of this sword is amazing. But the power. Not even the sea has been cut open. Ning Chuan's first blow did not achieve the shocking effect that Shanks showed. But for Shanks, it was enough to shock him and his eyes widened instantly. What the hell? Can you hit a sword for the first time by practicing divine avoidance? You know, when I first practiced this thing, it took a lot of effort. If we give this kid a little more time, he will probably improve by leaps and bounds, right? Just when Shanks was shocked that Ning Chuan hit a powerful blow for the first time he practiced divine avoidance. Ning Chuan said in his heart, "System, start settlement. Congratulations to host for successfully practicing divine evasion for 5 seconds and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the 50,000-second cultivation of divine evasion as a reward. Host's use of sword moves and divine evasion has been greatly improved." Looking at Ning Chuan's silence at this time, Shanks thought to himself, "It's begun, it's begun. I've seen this scene before. This brat is about to use his amazing talent again." Seeing Ning Chuan's silence, Shanks couldn't help but think back to his time on the battlefield. It looks like Ning Chuan secretly learned tricks from him. Ning Yuan at that time was exactly the same as it is now. No matter how fast this brat learns, it will probably take him one night to really master this move. This kind of offensive moves are different from those auxiliary ones. Only by absolutely understanding and using them can you truly master them. Just when Shanks was ready to wait patiently until dawn, Ning Chuan in front of him moved again. After getting the cultivation level returned by the system, Ning Chuan swung his sword again and struck out the second divine sword. This sword is much more powerful than before. The tyrannical conqueror's domineering power swept out. The sword energy was so fierce that it instantly split the sea into 2 again. Seeing this scene in front of him, Shanks rubbed his eyes in disbelief. When he saw the sea that was separated by a sword slowly recovering, his heart couldn't help but roar. What the hell? Can the sea be divided with the second blow? Although it can't compare to my sword in terms of distance, scale and strength. But it already has the prototype of divine avoidance, as if it has been practiced thousands of times. When Shanks was shocked, Ning Chuan continued to speak in his heart. System, continue settlement. Congratulations host. Immediately afterwards, the third knife, the fourth knife. The power of each of Ning Chuan's subsequent sword dodges increases in an incredible way. He seemed to have found a rhythm that resonated with the gods, and every blow was more powerful than the last one. Finally, when Ning Chuan slashed out the 10th sword, a force that seemed to destroy the world appeared in front of Shanks instantly. It seems that in the face of this terrifying power, even if there is a god in this world, then he had to avoid Ning Chuan's terrifying blow. After this sword was slashed, the sea in front of the 2 people was completely separated. The sword light stretched for tens of kilometers, and the rocks on the seabed were easily cut off by this sword. A huge canyon in the sea was formed. The clouds in the sky were also disturbed by Ningchuan's sword energy, splitting dozens of kilometers away in the middle. Shanks was stunned by the shock of the scene in front of him. Ningchuan's strike was even more terrifying than the sword strike he struck before. However, what Shanks didn't know was that, after this sword strike, Ningchuan silently recited something in his heart. System, settlement. Early the next morning, the sun was just right and there was no cloud in the sky. Maybe it was because of the influence of Ningchuan's sword swing yesterday that all the clouds in the sky were driven away. This is a great day to go to sea. Uta, meet your father again. It's time for us to go to sea and see other places. Ningchuan rubbed Wuta's little head and said softly. Soon after, Ningchuan and his party bid farewell to the Shanks group and the enthusiastic people in the country of music. Taking Uta on a new voyage, Nami stood at the bow of the boat, looking at Ningchuan who was moving out the mahjong table and smiled. Ningchuan, where are we going next? Hear this question from Nami. Nuo Chigao, Kuina, and Uta all looked at Ningchuan with expectant looks. Ningchuan naturally knew the thoughts of these little cuties. I saw him putting the mahjong table in place, pointing to the horizon in the distance, and said with a smile. It's time to visit the Grand Line. As soon as these words were spoken, a look of excitement suddenly appeared on the faces of the four little ones. That is the Great Sea Route, a place that everyone who goes to sea longs for. After determining the route, Nami immediately took the helm, turned the direction and started heading towards the next destination. From the map, head to the Grand Line in the East China Sea. In addition to taking the windless zone, the only option is to climb the upside-down mountain. Or flying over the 10,000-meter high Red Earth continent. No matter which one of these three roads, Ningchuan can guarantee that he can realize it and it will be extremely smooth. However, if you choose the latter two paths, Ningchuan needs to put in more effort. This is undoubtedly fatal to Ningchuan, who has always been lazy. It would be better to just walk up the upside-down mountain to save more effort. If you take the upside-down mountain, you can also take a trip to Loguetown on the way. This place is quite famous. It is not only the place where Roger One Piece was executed, but also a gathering place for many pirates who are preparing to challenge the Grand Line. But Ningchuan was indifferent to this. He went to Loguetown for only one purpose. He is going to find a guy named Bartolomeo. This guy has a bug-level fruit on his body, the barrier fruit. Except for the fact that this thing broke once in the fantasy world of Uta Fruit, a world with different rules. Other times, he performs very well. Can block all attacks in the world. What's more, this is a record in the hands of Bartolomeo. If it were in Ningchuan's hands, this fruit's ability would definitely have more uses. Ningchuan and Nami played mahjong on the sea for several days. Only then did he finally arrive at the port of Loguetown from the territory of the country of music. The pier in Loguetown was crowded with people, and various ships from all over the world were moored on the shore. There are all kinds of shops on the streets. Many of the products sold there have never been seen in Donghai. Seeing such a lively scene, the four little cuties were instantly attracted. Kuina doesn't even take part in playing mahjong and only focuses on practicing swordsmanship. At this time, everyone was looking at the shops selling novelty gadgets with bright eyes. Ningchuan glanced at them and said with a smile. If you like Loguetown so much, then go up and have a look. By the way, you can spend whatever you want in Loguetown today. Buy whatever you like, and your captain will reimburse you. Thunder Fire Sword, watch the ship. Whoever dares to come up and steal something will be killed directly. Ningchuan would not be polite to thieves who dared to board the ship to steal things. Upon hearing Ningchuan's order, the tip of the Thunder Fire Sword moved slightly, as if he was nodding. In this way, Ningchuan took four little cuties and started walking around Loguetown. Now Ningchuan still has more than 20 million Baileys with him, which he can spend at will. Even if you accidentally overspend, don't worry. There are so many pirates in Loguetown. If you just catch a few and kill a few, you can go to the marine station to exchange for a lot of bounty. Especially those guys with tens of millions of belly bounties. It's simply Ningchuan's mobile cash machine. In this way, Ning Chuan and his 4 children started a crazy shopping mode in Loguetown. Something delicious, fun, beautiful clothes, skirts, etc. Scan directly with your eyes closed. There were even a few stores where Ning Chuan and the others had wiped out everything. The shop owner was so happy that he just met the god of wealth. However, this is Loguetown after all. Ning Chuan and the others consume in such a big way. Naturally, he will be targeted by some guys with evil intentions. But because Loguetown is an extremely important place for marine, most of the pirates here are very low-key. They didn't dare to attack Ning Chuan in the street. So I had no choice but to squat with them near the boat at the port of Ning Chuan. Ning Chuan's ship is easy to recognize. The pirate flag with the 5 people's heads directly showed their identities. Some brave pirates saw that no one was left on Ning Chuan's ship. I want to sneak up and steal something valuable. However, they had not yet had time to throw the hook rope to Ning Chuan's ship. I saw a burst of sword light sweeping towards me. A few unlucky guys instantly turned into piles of minced meat, with blood splattered all over the floor. It was very scary. See this scene. The following pirates were so frightened that they froze there and did not dare to move. I no longer dared to take advantage of Ning Chuan's ship. At the same time, Ning Chuan used the power of the song fruit to create a world. All the things they bought were temporarily stored in this world. Asked about the location of the tavern, Ning Chuan took Nami and the others to the tavern. After all, there is no better place than a tavern to get information. On the way to the pub, Nami asked very curiously, Ning Chuan, is the Bartolomeo you were looking for strong? I'm not strong, but I'm definitely not weak. Ning Chuan smiled, rubbed Nami's head, and explained seriously. Bartolomeo's barrier fruit. Once the barrier is opened, it is basically invincible and can block all attacks in the world. After hearing Ning Chuan's words, Uta asked curiously, barrier fruit, what ability is that? Is the fruit of my song as powerful as my song? Hearing this, Ning Chuan smiled and explained, the barrier fruit can create an invisible barrier that can defend against all attacks. But if he is pulled into the world of song fruit by you in advance and you change the rules of the world, then his barrier fruit will be ineffective. Hearing Ning Chuan's explanation, Yuta's little face showed a hint of excitement. Ha ha, my fruit is still powerful. Kuina heard Ning Chuan's conversation and asked with a hint of curiosity. Is the barrier fruit that powerful? The great swordsman in the world, like Ning Chuan, can you break the barrier if you draw your sword? Ning Chuan smiled and shook his head. As long as the rules of the world remain unchanged, the barrier fruit is the strongest and no one can break it. Kuina clicked her tongue, feeling a little incredulous at the abnormality of the barrier fruit. But at this moment, Nuo Chigao's eyes flashed with excitement. She knew that Ning Chuan's purpose in finding Bartolomeo was to obtain his abilities. If Ning Chuan could get a barrier that no one could break, then they don't have to worry about him when they fight in Ning Chuan. The few people walked very quickly and soon arrived at the busiest tavern in the town. As soon as the 5 of them entered the tavern, they immediately attracted the attention of everyone inside. Ning Chuan didn't care about other people's eyes. Go straight to the highest point in the tavern. He grabbed the microphone from the bunny girl's hand and shouted directly to everyone in the tavern. Who knows where Bartolomeo is? A piece of news, a reward of 1 million Baileys. With that said, Ning Chuan took out a bag full of gold coins from his arms. The golden coins looked particularly bright under the bright red lights of the tavern. Hear Ning Chuan's voice. Everyone in the tavern was stunned for a moment. They looked at the gold coins in Ning Chuan's hands with longing in their eyes. However, before anyone came up to tell Ning Chuan the news and receive the reward, some noisy sounds sounded at this time. Looking for Bartolomeo? Are you crazy? That kid is a new gangster in this town, and he is a devil fruit user. Despite the young age of that brat Bartolomeo, he is a heinous fool. What do you want to do with him? If you want to fight with him, I advise you to rest. Just when others were noisy, suddenly, a dozen strong men with dragons and tigers tattooed on their bodies, who looked like they were not good people at first glance, appeared. With great arrogance, he pushed away the onlookers in front of him and walked towards the singing stage. Boy, give the money to your uncle. Let the 4 girls behind you have a drink with Grandpa, and Grandpa will take you to find Bartolomeo. The leader, the bald man, walked toward Nami and the others while smiling lewdly. "Hey, little girl, come over and have a drink with me." He hasn't finished speaking yet. I saw Ning Chuan reaching out and waving forward slightly. The next moment, these dozen strong men were instantly split into a pile of minced meat by Ning Chuan's dismemberment ability. Only the bald head of the leader was left intact, lying on the ground. After killing all these guys, Ning Chuan looked at Nuo Chigao and asked, "Is it a pirate?" "Yes, the leader is called Cherokee, the leader of the Tiger Hunter Pirates. The bounty is 3 million Baileys. They are just some trash fish." After hearing what Nuo Chigao said, Ning Chuan sneered. Then he kicked the bald head in front of a strong blonde man who was shaking with fear. 3 million Baileys, the extra money counts you as lucky. It's up to you, tell me where Bartolomeo is. Ning Chuan's voice was like a devil's whisper at this moment. How dare the person chosen by Ning Chuan refuse to obey? He explained everything clearly. In order to prevent Ning Chuan from finding someone to abduct him and come back to find him in trouble. He even drew a map for Ning Chuan and the others very appropriately. Ning Chuan picked up the map and left the tavern with Nami and Uta without looking back. Go straight to Bartolomeo's gang headquarters. After Ning Chuan and the other 5 left, the strong man he chose looked at his wet pants. I feel a little embarrassed. But after looking at the head on the ground worth 3 million belly, a look of excitement suddenly appeared on his face. I picked up 3 million Baileys for free, and I made a lot of money today. Let's go buy a new pair of pants. At the same time, Smoker is investigating the murder of a thief at the port. Then he heard news from his subordinates that someone had killed someone in the tavern. It is the queen of the 5 children hanging on the flag of the pirate ship with the murderous sword at the port. Smoker didn't hesitate at all and turned into a puff of smoke and rushed towards the tavern. You dare to be so unscrupulous in my territory? Do you regard the law and us, Marine, as decoration? Ning Chuan and his party followed the map drawn by the strong man just now. Soon they found the gang headquarters where Bartolomeo was located. There were several gangster guards in black suits standing outside the gang headquarters. As soon as they saw the people from Ning Chuan walking straight towards them, they immediately became alert. Who are you? What do you want to do? One of the guards asked sharply. Ning Chuan replied calmly, I came to see Bartolomeo. I have something to discuss. What can happen to a little brat? Do you think that my lord Bartolomeo, who is about the same age as you, will take you in? Humph, what a joke. Boy, this is not the place you should be, get out of here. Look at these janitor guys who are not friendly at all. Ning Chuan was not going to talk nonsense with them. He smiled coldly, and then released Conqueror's domineering energy. A powerful aura spread instantly, and several gang members' eyes widened in an instant. It was like being hit hard on the head by a heavy object. He fell to the ground very weakly and fainted. The Ningchuan people did not stop and continued moving forward. Along the way, all the gang members who came out to intercept them were stunned by Ning Chuan's Conqueror's dominance. When several people came to the courtyard, at a glance, Ning Chuan saw a kid with green hair practicing strength there. Bartolomeo was not a few years older than Ning Chuan at this time. But because he accidentally ate the barrier fruit, relying on the invincible ability of the barrier fruit, he easily wiped out the gangs in Loguetown and became the gang boss in the town. At this time, Bartolomeo also heard the noise coming from outside. He looked back and saw a few guys younger than himself, so boldly breaking into his territory. Seeing this scene, Bartolomeo's eyes flashed with anger. What do these men do for food? Can't even stop a few children. No wonder you are such a waste. Bartolomeo sneered and dropped the heavy object in his hand. He rushed out of the room without hesitation and shouted loudly at the leader Ning Chuan. Boy, if you dare to come to my territory to cause trouble, I think you are tired of living, right? As soon as he finished speaking, he was ready to test his recent practice results. He waved his fist and rushed towards Ning Chuan in a daze. Looking at Bartolomeo rushing towards him with all his flaws, Ning Chuan was slightly startled and couldn't help but smile. It seems like this kid doesn't take me seriously. Then I'll teach you a lesson. Before Bartolomeo could approach Ning Chuan ducked in front of him with lightning speed. He grabbed his neck and lifted him up high. A moment. Bartolomeo's eyes were full of horror. He didn't even see clearly how Ning Chuan appeared in front of him. Bartolomeo tried to get rid of Ning Chuan's control. But no matter how hard he tried, Ning Chuan's hands were like a pair of iron pliers, and he couldn't break free no matter what. Ning Chuan sneered and looked at Bartolomeo struggling in his hands. Your strength is too weak. I advise you to surrender honestly to avoid unnecessary pain. Hearing Ning Chuan's mocking words, Bartolomeo's face turned red and he roared angrily. Let me go, you fool. You have the ability to have a fair fight with me. I am a devil fruit user. If you give me a chance to use the power of devil fruit, you will never be my opponent. Hearing Bartolomeo's words, unwilling to admit defeat, Ning Chuan smiled slightly and let go of Bartolomeo. Okay, what can I do if I give you a chance? You don't think that your devil fruit ability is really invincible, do you? Bartolomeo sneered. He didn't take Ning Chuan's ridicule to heart at all. He is confident that the barrier fruit is the strongest devil fruit in the world. As long as he opens the barrier, Ning Chuan will lose no matter what. Bartolomeo didn't hesitate and immediately activated the barrier fruit's ability. The next moment, a transparent barrier instantly appeared in front of him. The moment the barrier appeared, his confidence in speaking was much higher than before. You brat, now let's see how you break my barrier. Looking at Bartolomeo's extremely confident look, Ning Chuan was unhurried, with a playful smile on his lips. Looks like you're ready. Then, next, I'll show you how your barrier fruit is broken. Ning Chuan finished speaking. The next moment, he immediately started singing the divine song Jinni Too Beautiful. As soon as the prelude of the song came out, Nami and the others had their previous experience. He immediately blocked his ears with his hands to prevent himself from being invaded by the terrifying mental pollution. The unsuspecting Bartolomeo was immediately pulled into the world of Kun by Ning Chuan. What's going on? Where am I? Bartolomeo, who was pulled into the world of Kun by Ning Chuan, looked around in horror. I saw that the surrounding scene had completely changed. Everywhere I looked, there was Kun playing basketball. It doesn't matter what kind of abilities you use. As long as I can use the barrier fruit, I won't lose. Having said that, Bartolomeo directly tried his best to activate the barrier fruit's ability to the maximum. Ning Chuan looked at this scene with a faint smile on his face. Bartolomeo ignored him. Instead, he concentrated on observing the entire process of using the barrier fruit. System, start settlement. Congratulations to host for successfully observing the barrier fruit ability for 10 seconds. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the observation barrier fruit ability and returning the 100,000 seconds of cultivation. Host's understanding of the barrier fruit's ability has improved. After understanding the barrier fruit, Ning Chuan continued to observe. 10 seconds later, Ning Chuan continued to speak in his heart. System, continue settlement. Congratulations host. Just when Ning Chuan was relying on the system's settlement ability, he was about to get the barrier fruit in his hands. But Bartolomeo cursed angrily in the world of Kun. You despicable villain, do you only use such dirty methods? Come and fight me head on if you have the guts. Ah, assholes, you middle-parted men wearing overalls, don't come over here. Ning Chuan ignored Bartolomeo's curse. He has been carefully observing the ability of the barrier fruit and is constantly calculating it. Until a satisfying voice sounded in his mind. Congratulations to host, you have successfully mastered the ability of barrier fruit. After hearing this voice, Ning Chuan finally showed a satisfied smile on his face. The ability of the barrier fruit has been mastered. Then Bartolomeo is useless. It's time to completely shatter his 3 views. Let him know that the barrier fruit is not really invincible. After successfully obtaining the barrier fruit ability, Ning Chuan walked slowly to Bartolomeo. Staring at Bartolomeo, who was already being tortured impatiently by Kun, he smiled. Bartolomeo, do you really think your barrier fruit is invincible? After hearing Ning Chuan's words, Bartolomeo responded without hesitation. Whether it is invincible or not, you will know if you try it. In addition to making these things to disgust me and torture me, what else can you do to me? As long as the barrier is in hand, I will not lose. Having said that, Bartolomeo continued to activate the barrier fruit's ability. He formed his own barrier into a huge sphere. He hid himself inside. This will isolate the terrible sound that makes people feel uncomfortable and want to explode. Look at Bartolomeo's appearance at this time. Ning Chuan smiled slightly. The next moment, his voice penetrated directly through the sound barrier Bartolomeo had worked so hard to create. Passed into his ears. Let me tell you, this is the world of Kun, another world. The rules of the outside world are invalid here. In other words, your barrier can be broken here. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Bartolomeo had an expression of disbelief on his face. This is somewhat beyond his understanding. Looking at the strange expression on Bartolomeo's face, Ning Chuan smiled slightly. Then I saw him raise a fist and strike casually. Just listen to a click. The next moment, the barrier that Bartolomeo was proud of shattered. See this scene. Bartolomeo's eyes widened in disbelief, with a look of shock on his face. This is impossible. My barrier fruit is invincible. Although Bartolomeo still didn't want to believe what he saw. But the fact was before his eyes, and he had to believe it. Nothing is invincible here, because this is the world I created. Your barrier is completely vulnerable in my world. Listening to Ning Chuan's disdainful words, Bartolomeo's confidence collapsed instantly. He never thought that the ability he was so proud of could be so vulnerable. Under the double oppression of Ningchuan and Kunji world, his will began to waver, and he even began to doubt his life. Seeing that Bartolomeo's confidence was almost destroyed by him, the power of the barrier fruit was also in hand. There is nothing left for Ning Chuan to worry about in Bartolomeo. So, Ning Chuan casually withdrew from the world of Kun, bringing Bartolomeo back into the real world. At this time, Bartolomeo had completely lost his will to fight. Looking at Ning Chuan standing in front of him, he was not yet his own age. His face was pale and his eyes were full of fear. When facing Ning Chuan, his heart was filled with a sense of powerlessness. This was a feeling he had never experienced before, and it was very difficult for him to accept. Watching Bartolomeo being beaten to the point of collapse by himself, he sat on the ground dejectedly, his eyes losing their former luster. Ning Chuan looked at his appearance and felt a little unbearable. Slowly walked forward and patted his shoulder, smiled and said, Bartolomeo, are you giving up now? You must know that your barrier fruit ability is very powerful. There are only a handful of people in this world who can break your barrier. Except for me and Uta, no one else has such an ability. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Bartolomeo finally raised his head, a glimmer of hope rekindled in his eyes. Really, if you don't believe me, throw me down. Although Ning Chuan's words were not polite, but when Bartolomeo heard it, he still felt a sense of admiration for Ning Chuan. Senior, can you tell me your surname? Ning Chuan. Ning Chuan had just finished saying his name. Bartolomeo stood up directly from where he was. He looked at Ning Chuan with excitement and said loudly, Brother Ning Chuan, I want to become your teacher. You are so powerful, you can definitely teach me how to become stronger. Ning Chuan. To Bartolomeo's proposal, Ning Chuan quickly waved his hand and refused. I don't accept apprentices, but if you are willing, I can give you some advice and help. Hearing this, Bartolomeo bowed towards Ning Chuan very excitedly. Senior Ning Chuan, I will be your fan from now on. I will follow the steps of my seniors and become stronger step by step. At this time, Bartolomeo was determined to regard Ning Chuan as his idol. He secretly vowed to follow Ning Chuan's footsteps and become stronger. See this scene in front of you. It was Ning Chuan's turn to be dumbfounded. Until then he finally remembered the other side of Bartolomeo. This guy is a huge fan. In the original work, the object of his fanaticism is Luffy. Now, the object of this guy's craze is himself. Thinking of this, Ning Chuan couldn't help but rub his head. I felt a little helpless towards Bartolomeo. Good guy. Why did you forget this? Remember this earlier, I should have withdrawn as soon as I got the barrier fruit. Just when Ning Chuan had a headache, how should he deal with such a fanatical fan of his? Outside, at the door of the gang headquarters, a figure suddenly broke in. To be precise, it was a figure emitting white smoke. After Smoker came to Bartolomeo's territory, looking at the gangster who fell to the ground, he thought Ning Chuan was killing people randomly again. Extremely angry, he directly used his smoke fruit ability and broke in from the outside. The moment he saw Ning Chuan, he angrily waved the 10 hands of Sea Tower Stone in his hand. Rushing straight towards Ning Chuan, "You little brat, how dare you ignore the laws of Loguetown and kill people at will in Loguetown? I'm going to capture you and send you to the great prison under the sea." Hear Smoker's voice. A sneer appeared on Ning Chuan's face. He knows Smoker very well. This guy is obsessed with justice and wants to be a good Marine. However, his strength really cannot support his great dream. Watching Smoker rush towards him, Ning Chuan dodged sideways and easily avoided Smoker's attack. "How many animals have I killed, and you Marines are so active? When those pirates were bullying people at will in Loguetown, where were you?" Ning Chuan's words really made it difficult for Smoker to answer. No matter how much they commit crimes, you shouldn't. Smoker hasn't finished speaking yet. Ning Chuan sneered directly. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Smoker. The next moment, the fist filled with armed domineering energy hit Smoker's abdomen. He was beaten so hard that he couldn't get up for a while. "If you don't have the strength, it's better not to talk to me about justice." In the face of absolute strength, lousy is justice. He received a punch from Ning Chuan with an armed and domineering attitude. Smoker lay down on the ground clutching his stomach in pain. He couldn't believe how Ning Chuan defeated him. He clearly has the ability of the Logia fruit. Logically speaking, fists shouldn't be able to hurt him. However, even if he was punched by Ning Chuan, Smoker still forced himself to half kneel on the ground, looking at Ning Chuan with an angry look on his face and said, "I will never recognize your justice. Even if they are pirates, you can't kill them casually. At least the law is needed." Before Smoker could finish his words, Ning Chuan stopped talking nonsense. He directly pinched the back of his neck with his armed domineering force and said coldly, "It's good to have a righteous heart, but if you follow the law, at the very least, everyone in the world must be equal before the law can be applied. How can we talk about fairness and law when the Draco and world government are suppressing you Marine? If you really want to change all this, then become stronger, otherwise it will all be just talk." After saying that, Ning Chuan slapped Smoker unconscious. He casually threw him to Bartolomeo. "Send this silly boy to the Marine base. After all, there aren't many people who think like this these days." Listen to what Ning Chuan just said. Looking at the Smoker he threw into his hands, Bartolomeo's eyes were full of admiration. As expected of Senior Ning Chuan, ordinary people can't say anything about justice. "I understand. You must become stronger to help Senior Ning Chuan overthrow the Tianlong people and the world government. Senior Ning Chuan, please rest assured. I will definitely work hard to become stronger." Bartolomeo directly picked up Smoker and ran to the Marine station. At the same time, he also secretly vowed to follow the example of Senior Ning Chuan and become stronger. Looking at Bartolomeo who had run away, Ning Chuan was a little confused. What did this kid realize? "I didn't say I wanted to overthrow the Draco and world government." In the original book, Bartolomeo burned Shank's flag in order to help Luffy become One Piece. Now, just to help me, don't join the Revolutionary Army directly to play big games. However, after thinking about it carefully, Ning Chuan found that it didn't seem to matter even if Bartolomeo joined the Revolutionary Army. Anyway, if Ning Chuan and the others continue sailing like this, sooner or later, we will have to face the Draco and the world government. By then, these blind people will really offend their own people. Killing them seems to be a good choice. After settling this matter, Ning Chuan took Nami and the others to continue shopping in Loguetown. They were going to have a good few days in Loguetown, enjoying the rare leisure time before heading to the Grand Route. At the same time, after waking up, Smoker found himself lying on the bed at the Marine base. He tried hard to recall everything that happened, and the figure of Ning Chuan appeared in his mind. "That fool boy, how dare you humiliate me like this? I won't let you go." Thinking of this, he was about to rush out and continue looking for Ning Chuan. However, when I thought about the scene where I was knocked down by a punch, Smoker couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Ning Chuan's strength is too strong, and I know nothing about him. Therefore, Smoker wanted to investigate some information about Ning Chuan first. Make more plans. Think of this. Smoker immediately rushed to the general's office at Marine Station. General Marine stationed in Loguetown is a lieutenant general. In a small town, a Marine lieutenant general is stationed. This shows that the Marine headquarters attaches great importance to Loguetown. Saw Smoker pushing through the door. The lieutenant general couldn't help but frown. Smoker is a newcomer he is optimistic about. Not only is he powerful, but he also masters Logia's devil fruit. The most important thing is that this newcomer has a strong sense of justice. However, look at Smoker's anxious look now. The lieutenant general was a little surprised. Lieutenant General, do you know a kid named Ning Chuan? Smoker asked excitedly as soon as he entered the office. Ning Chuan, who are you talking about? Ning Chuan. When the Marine Lieutenant General heard the name, he immediately stood up excitedly. I saw him holding Smoker's neck and asking eagerly. Where is Ning Chuan? Did your kid offend him? Let's go, I'll take you to apologize to him. If you dare to offend him, you brat, I won't even be able to protect you, lousy. Smoker was taken aback by the Lieutenant General's reaction. With a hint of curiosity, he continued to ask cautiously. Lieutenant General, is there anything special about Ning Chuan? Hear Smoker ask this. The Lieutenant General took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. It's normal for you kid not to know. You should have heard about the naval battle to round up Buggy a few days ago. This kid named Ning Chuan was the main force in the naval battle to round up Buggy. His strength is comparable to the 4 emperors of New World. Sengoku Fleet Admiral specifically stated that all Marines must not offend him easily. Hearing this, Smoker broke into a cold sweat. Just now he actually wanted to fight against a 4 emperors level powerhouse. Still want to capture him and throw him into the great prison under the sea. What a joke. No wonder he was able to break his Logia devil fruit ability in one fell swoop. That's it. After knowing all this, he couldn't help but feel scared. However, after he was afraid, he still spoke unwillingly. It's difficult. Can such a strong man kill people at will? Kill? Who did Ning Chuan kill? I heard Smoker say that Ning Chuan kills people at will. The resident lieutenant general couldn't help being surprised and asked quickly. Killed a dozen pirates in the tavern, and killed many thieves who wanted to board the ship and steal things at the port. Upon hearing this, the resident lieutenant general jumped up excitedly. Slap on Smoker's head. Are you stupid? Is this called random killing? This is obviously to eliminate harm for the people. The lieutenant general yelled at Smoker with some hatred. Quickly, go and count the bounties for the guys killed by Ning Chuan. Send it to him quickly before he leaves. Remember, don't act rashly when you meet this kind of person in the future. Our mission is to uphold justice, do you understand? People like Ning Chuan are helping us uphold justice. Listen to what your immediate boss says. Smoker suddenly felt that Marine's word, justice, seemed a bit funny. He couldn't help but recall what Ning Chuan had said to him before. Only absolute strength is called justice. Now it seems that what Ning Chuan said is indeed right. As long as the strength is enough, even the Marine Lieutenant General will start licking. Should I also find a place to improve my strength? 3 days later, on the pier of Loguetown, Ning Chuan and the other 5 had a great time in Loguetown. It's time to set off for the Grand Line. The boat with the flag painted with the 5 heads raised its sails again. This time, they are going to that legendary place that everyone who goes to sea longs for. The Grand Line. After leaving Loguetown, Ning Chuan and the 5 of them drifted on the sea for 3 days and successfully arrived at the foot of the upside-down mountain where the current was turbulent. Looking at the red earth continent in front of me, which is fully 10,000 meters high, with the top towering into the clouds. It was as if an insurmountable barrier lay in front of them. And in the center of this red earth continent, there is a huge gap. The flow of water in this gap is different from other places. In other places, water flows from high to low. The water flow in this gap flows from low to high. From the rough sea below, it flows directly to the top of the mountain. This is one of the roads to the Grand Line, upside down mountain. If you ride the boat on the rising current, you can successfully cross here in a short time. You can successfully reach the entrance of the Grand Route. But you want to go from the rough sea to the fast rising water. But it's a huge difficulty. I don't know how many pirate ships were pushed by the turbulent waves in this place and missed the rising water channel. He accidentally crashed into the Red Earth continent and was shattered to pieces. Sunk in the bottomless sea. But for Ningchuan and the others, this difficulty is almost equivalent to none. At this time, Ningchuan's mind was not focused on the rising water channel that was so narrow that only one ship could pass through. Looking at the Red Earth continent that is 10,000 meters high in front of me, Ningchuan couldn't help but think of his previous appointment with Garp. As long as he can break the Red Earth continent into pieces, Garp worshipped himself as his master. Thinking of this, Ningchuan couldn't help but smile. Would you like to give that old guy Garp a heads up here? Let him not forget the original agreement. Just do it. I saw Ningchuan controlling the boat with 5 people. Help Nami and the others to drive the boat to the rising water first. Let the 4 of them ride the rising current to climb to the top of Upside Down Mountain. And he stayed at the foot of the mountain, facing the majestic Red Earth continent in front of him. Then let's get started. Leave a message for Garp here. By the way, let the world know that I, Ningchuan, am going to the Grand Route. Ningchuan smiled slightly and flew directly into the air. Big Buddha form. Devil's body. As Ningchuan's heart moved, the next moment, power surged within his body, and he instantly transformed into half a golden Buddha and half a black devil. At this time, sacred and evil forces were flowing through his body. There was no incompatibility. Ningchuan gathered all the strength in his body, and the powerful armed domineering energy gathered on his fist. With lightning speed, he punched the Red Earth continent instantly. Boom! The huge impact caused the entire Red Earth continent nearby to begin to shake slightly. He watched as he punched out a giant crater 100 meters wide. Ningchuan was a little dissatisfied. After all, this huge pit of 100 meters is too inconspicuous for the entire Red Earth continent. However, if others knew what Ningchuan was thinking, they might be scared to death. This is the hardest red soil continent in the world. Ningchuan's punch created a huge pit 100 meters wide. Is this still not satisfactory? This is too much. It would be nice if it was more powerful. System, settle the matter. Congratulations, host. After the returned cultivation base is successfully credited, Ningchuan's eyes were firm and he continued to use punches and settlements. Punch after punch bombarded the Red Earth continent. Every blow he makes is continuously strengthened with the help of the system. Wherever the fist touched, rocks cracked, and the entire Red Earth continent shook more and more violently. At the back, each of his punches seemed to carry earth-shaking power. It seems as if this endless continent is going to be completely destroyed. At the same time, far in the middle of the Grand Line, the Mary Joa Draconis people on the Red Earth continent. I also felt the vibration of the Red Earth continent under my feet. They didn't understand what terrible thing had happened. The Red Earth continent actually started to shake. I feel the vibrations of the Red Earth continent becoming more and more intense. Marie Joa's celestial dragons walked out of the luxurious house one after another, looking at their feet in horror. For hundreds of years, the incomparably solid Red Earth continent has never experienced such earthquake-like shaking. This unprecedented shock caused everyone to panic. The Knights of God, who were responsible for the safety of the Tianlong people, quickly dispatched at this moment to try to stabilize the situation. Various members of the Knights evacuated the panicked celestial dragons, while looking around vigilantly for any potential threats. Since the last time a celestial dragon was killed, the security of the entire Holy Land is much stronger than before. At this time, Marie Joa was in the largest house. As the 5 old men who control the highest authority in the world, they all felt this terrifying shock. The 5 elders frowned and looked at each other, not understanding what happened. Saturn, is there something going on in the Red Earth continent? Shouldn't it be more than 10 years before the seawater rises and floods the entire world? Saint Moshe, who was in charge of the environment, frowned and looked at Saint Satan. The current situation seems to be very different from Saint Satan's previous research. I don't know the specific situation, but it probably has little to do with rising sea levels. Saint Satan is very confident in his research. He directly denied Moshe Sheng's speculation. Just when the other 3 were about to tell their guesses, suddenly the 5 of them received an order at the same time. After receiving this order, without any hesitation, the 5 of them got up and walked directly towards the palace in the deepest part of Mariajoya. Going with them was the current leader of the Knights of God, Saint Geringer. When the 6 of them arrived at the deepest palace, they all knelt down on one knee towards the throne at the top. Lord I am sitting on the throne nodded slightly. She looked at the 6 people who were silent for a long time and then slowly spoke. Be sure to investigate everything. It's such a simple sentence. This directly made the 6 people under the throne feel tremendous pressure. None of them spoke a word after receiving the order. Everyone left the palace quietly. Until he left Im's sight. The 6 of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. Lord I has spoken, let's prepare to take action. We must investigate what happened to the Red Earth continent. The Red Continent is very important to us. If sea levels rise in the future and everything is submerged, then the Red Continent will be our last safe haven. Until 10 minutes later, the shaking in the Red Earth continent finally stopped. At this moment, Ning Chuan was seen standing in the air. With a smile on his face, he looked at the several huge handwritings he had carved on the Red Earth continent that stretched for thousands of miles. Garp, come here and become a disciple. He stood here, admiring with satisfaction the masterpiece he had left behind for a while. If you let him know. I had just smashed and carved words on the Red Earth continent, and unexpectedly attracted the attention of the 5 elders and I am. Then he will definitely hit the Red Earth continent with dozens more punches. Give these guys a good scare. Chapter 91. Not long after, Ning Chuan caught up with the boat rushing to the top of Upside Down Mountain. Seeing Ning Chuan coming back, Nami and the 4 of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. After all, the movement just now was really scary. They were afraid of an accident in Ningchuan. What happened just now? It's so scary. Nami clutched her chest, terrified. The whole mountain was shaking just now. I thought there was going to be a big earthquake. Nokigao added with a worried look on his face. That's right, it scared us to death just now. Wuta was also terrified, and she didn't feel relieved until Ningchuan came back. Although Kuina is not good at expressing herself. But look at the worried expression on her face that still hasn't gone away. It is not difficult to guess that she was also worried about Ning Chuan's safety just now. He looked at the 4 little cuties who were worried about him. Ning Chuan smiled slightly and comforted them. He also told them that he was carving words on the Red Earth continent just now. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Nami's curiosity was immediately aroused. What did you carve on the Red Earth continent? The other 3 people also looked at Ning Chuan with curious expressions. Nothing. I just left a message for Garp to remind him to come over and become my disciple. Hear this. Nami and Nokigao couldn't help laughing. You are so interesting. Will Mr. Garp be so angry at the words you carved? I don't care about that. After all, it was agreed upon at that time. As an old man, he can't help but admit it, right? In this way, the 5 of them rushed to the top of Upside Down Mountain, laughing and joking all the way. Then under the control of Ning Chuan, the 5-person boat successfully swooped down the waterway, rushed towards the famous scenic spot at the foot of the mountain and the source of the great shipping route, Twin Capes. However, just when Ning Chuan's boat was about to rush to the foot of the mountain, a whale larger than the island suddenly crashed straight into their boat. Nami and her 4 little cuties saw this giant whale comparable to Poseidon. His face suddenly changed with fear. Nami looked extremely nervously at the big whale that was about to hit the boat, and exclaimed, "No, our ship is going to be smashed by a whale." Wuta clung to the side of the ship and looked at the huge figure in horror. What should I do, Brother Ningchuan? Nokigao and Kuina couldn't help showing nervous expressions. After all, a huge creature suddenly flew towards his boat. They have never had such a plan. Saw this flying whale. Ning Chuan recognized it immediately. It must be Laboon, the whale guarding Twin Capes. He knew that Laboon did not come to crash their ship. It was hitting the Red Earth continent and wanted to go back from the Upside Down Mountain to find his former companions. It's just a pity. Its former companions have all died on the Grand Line. Brook is the only one left alive. Ning Chuan clearly knows Laboon's pitiful life experience. So he wasn't going to kill the giant whale that accidentally crashed into their boat. Ning Chuan's figure was like lightning, and he quickly rushed to the whale's head. He stretched out a hand and pressed it on Laboon's head casually. Forcefully pushed the whale Laboon back. The moment Laboon was successfully pushed into the sea by Ning Chuan, Their boat also successfully passed the waterway down the mountain and rushed into the sea of the Grand Route. However, although Ningchuan and their boat are already safe, but Laboon, who was pressed down by Ning Chuan's hand, was very unconvinced. In the sea, it can't even lose to those Poseidons. How could you lose to a tiny human being? So it took a serious look at Ning Chuan. Dive directly into the depths of the sea, and use the buoyancy of the seawater to rush towards Ningchuan again, preparing to knock this human away, so that he can see the true power of the island whale. Boom! Laboon rushed out from the depths of the sea instantly like a cannonball. His scar-covered head slammed into Ning Chuan, who was standing in the air. However, what the whale Laboon didn't expect was, when its huge body just flew into the air, Ning Chuan held it firmly again. System, settlement. Congratulations to host for successfully subduing the whale with power for 5 seconds and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the 50,000-second cultivation bonus of the uniformed whale power. The power of host has been greatly improved, with the returned cultivation base arriving. This time, Ning Chuan used much more force than last time. He actually used the terrifying power that could suppress the giant whale directly in midair to push the whale Laboon back from the sky into the sea. Thump! The sound of a huge object falling into the water resounded throughout the sea. Laboon was suddenly pushed into the depths of the sea by Ning Chuan. It struggled continuously in Ning Chuan's hands, causing huge waves. However, as the power in Ning Chuan's hands grew stronger and stronger, Laboon had no chance of breaking free from Ning Chuan's grasp. Ning Chuan had no choice but to suppress the ferocity in his body and slowly regain his composure. That's awesome, Ning Chuan. Nami, who was watching this scene from the shore, couldn't help shouting excitedly. Brother Ningchuan is so powerful. Yuta's eyes shone with admiration. Our Ningchuan has become stronger again. Nokigao couldn't help but admired. When will I become as strong as Ning Chuan? Kuina looked at Ning Chuan, who subdued a whale with one hand, her eyes full of yearning. Looking at Laboon, the whale gradually stopped struggling in his hands and his eyes became clear. Ning Chuan knew that it had already given up. Therefore, Ning Chuan also released his hold on Laboon. Let it return to the sea. When Laboon returned to the sea, it was no longer as crazy as before. Instead, he stopped there quietly, looking at Ning Chuan up and down, wondering what he was thinking. Just when Nami and the others were wondering what this whale was going to do, I saw an old man suddenly crawling up from the whale's vent. This is an old man wearing a floral shirt and a petal hairstyle. But looking at his skills, they are not as good as he should be at his age. See this guy coming out of Laboon. Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile. He knew that this old man had another identity besides being the keeper of the Twin Points lighthouse. One Piece Rogers ship's doctor, Kuroka's. He is considered one of the best doctors in the world today. One Piece Rogers' terminal illness. Many people with healing devil fruit abilities are unable to do anything. But he was able to rely on the potion he concocted in his own hands. It successfully alleviated Roger's pain and extended part of his life. This allowed Roger to reach the end of the Grand Route in the last minute and become one piece. The moment I saw Kuroka's coming out of Laboon's body, Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile. After all, there is no doctor on Ning Chuan's ship. Isn't this just right? Here's an opportunity to study medicine. As soon as Kuroka's came out, he saw Ning Chuan and Nami. He couldn't help but sigh. Nowadays, children are starting to go to sea. It seems that Roger's influence is really amazing. After whispering a few words to himself, he was not prepared to pay attention to Ning Chuan and the others. Instead, he walked directly towards Laboon's big head. Wanted to see why it stopped hitting the red continent so early today. If it were left on weekdays, it would take at least a few more hours to stop. Kuroka's walked up to Laboon and asked softly, "Laboon, what's on your mind today?" I heard what Kuroka's said. The whale Laboon made a sound. Kuroka's, who was familiar with Laboon, listened carefully. My eyes widened in disbelief. What? You said your strength is no better than that of a child. Really? Is that child that scary? After Kuroka's confirmed with Laboon again and again. Finally, he looked at Ning Chuan in disbelief. Laboon's clear eyes and firm response made him believe it all. No wonder they were able to climb the upside-down mountain and reach the Grand Line. It turns out that kid is so strong. With a hint of shock and curiosity, Kuroka's walked towards Ningchuan and the others. Ningchuan couldn't help but smile when he saw Kuroka's approaching on his own initiative. He knew that this old guy would definitely be unable to restrain his curiosity and come here in order to learn medical skills from him later. Ningchuan took the initiative to introduce himself. Hello, Mr. Kurokas, my name is Ningchuan, and these are my partners Nami, Nokigao, Uta, and Kuina. Kurokas looked at Ningchuan and the others carefully and nodded. I didn't expect that people going to see now are getting younger and younger. It's true that a hero comes from a boy. Kurokas couldn't help but sigh. I think they were as old as their uncles when they went to sea. Mr. Kurokas, we are preparing to head to the Grand Line. But before setting off, I hope to learn some medical skills from you. Hearing Ningchuan's words, Kurokas couldn't help but frown. He looked at Ningchuan seriously and couldn't help but speak. Young man, I'm just an ordinary lighthouse keeper. How do I know any medical skills? If you want to learn medicine, you'd better find someone else. Looking at Kurokas's refusal, a smile appeared on Ningchuan's face that he knew he would be like this. Mr. Kurokas, stop hiding, I know your true identity. You were One Piece Roger's ship's doctor. It was with your help that Roger had a chance to survive Loftru, right? When Kurokas heard this, his expression suddenly changed, and a trace of shock flashed in his eyes. How do you know this? I know that from Shanks. Ningchuan thought for a moment and blamed Shanks. Hearing Shanks' name, Kurokas's expression gradually softened, and his hanging heart finally let go. Since Shanks recommended you to come, I'm relieved. However, learning medical skills does not happen overnight. It will take at least 1 or 2 years. If you don't have such a long time, then I can only teach you some simple first aid knowledge. It has been determined that he is one of his own. Kurokas no longer took too much precaution against Ningchuan, because he believes in Shanks's vision of people. Naturally, Ningchuan refused to ask Kurokas to teach him some first aid knowledge. Mr. Kurokas, what I want to learn is medical skills, not simple first aid. I have to ensure the health of my crew members at sea. But don't worry, my learning ability is quite strong. Just feel free to teach me. Hearing Ningchuan's words, Kurokas couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. This was the first time he had seen such a confident boy. However, Kurokas couldn't help but shook his head. He didn't say much. Instead, he walked quickly to the inside of the lighthouse. Not long after, he walked out holding a thick stack of medical books. Those books are so thick that they are almost as tall as 2 Nami. No, please memorize these books first. Only after you have finished memorizing can you be considered a beginner. I have many more in my house. After memorizing these, you can continue to learn. Ningchuan naturally knows how difficult it is to study medicine. But looking at so many medical-related books, he was still feeling a little numb. With so many books, no wonder the uncle said it would take at least a year or 2 to finish. Nami and the others couldn't help but exclaimed when they saw that there were so many books to learn to get started with medicine. However, Ningchuan quickly regained his composure. There are many books related to medicine. But after all, he has a system, and it will definitely be much easier for him to learn than ordinary people. So Ningchuan picked up a copy of Human Anatomy, placed at the top and read it. Said it was watching. In fact, Ningchuan just browsed through it with his knowledge and experience. He stayed on the content of each picture for no more than 10 seconds. About 5 minutes later, Ningchuan gently closed the first book and said silently in his heart. System, start settlement. Congratulations to the host for successfully browsing Human Anatomy, once and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to host for successfully getting a refund for browsing Human Anatomy 10,000 times. Host has successfully mastered anatomy knowledge. After hearing the last sentence of the system, I successfully mastered anatomy knowledge. Ningchuan couldn't help but smile. He turned to look at Kurokas, who was frowning, and said with a smile. Mr. Kurokas, I have finished studying 1 book. Ningchuan just finished speaking. Kurokas couldn't help but show a hint of anger on his face. However, he did not have an attack, but looked at Ning Chuan seriously while suppressing his anger. Medicine is not a child's play. How can you learn it by just flipping through a book? If you have this attitude, you'd better learn some first aid knowledge. Looking at Kuroka's, who was a little angry, Ning Chuan said with a smile on his face, "I'm not browsing casually. If you don't believe me, why don't you give me a try?" Ning Chuan dared to quibble after hearing this. Kuroka's couldn't help but prepare to get serious with Ning Chuan. "Good. If you can really memorize it, how many bones are there in the human body?" Hearing this, Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile, and then spoke seriously. 206 yuan. The head has 29 pieces, the torso has 51 pieces, and the limbs have 126 pieces. Do you need me to tell you in detail how many pieces each part has? The 29 pieces on the head include. Listening to Ning Chuan's words, Kuroka's couldn't help being a little dumbfounded. He picked up the book doubtfully and read through it at Ning Chuan's pace. Then he put it down in confusion. Can you remember it so clearly even if you flip through it so quickly? Could it be that this guy is still a genius in medicine? Kuroka's didn't understand how Ning Chuan did all this. According to this learning efficiency, Ning Chuan finished studying all the pile of books given to him by Kuroka's in less than 3 hours. When Ning Chuan put down the last book, Kuroka's was shocked and speechless by Ning Chuan's learning efficiency. He had never seen anyone learn so efficiently. It's as if Ning Chuan is a genius born for medicine. Kuroka's swallowed in shock. Somewhat unbelievably, several more difficult questions were raised for verification. As a result, Ning Chuan answered all questions fluently. This forced Kuroka's to admit, Ning Chuan had indeed memorized all the books in the pile. He has successfully entered medicine. You can learn more in-depth content from him. This kid is really a genius. Kuroka's couldn't help but sigh. He turned to look at Ning Chuan, hesitated for a moment and then spoke. Now that you have mastered the basics, then prepare to learn pharmacy, which I am best at. The words fell. Kuroka's returned to his lighthouse hut. Ning Chuan also brought out a large category of books related to pharmacy, such as an encyclopedia of animals and plants of the Great Root, an encyclopedia of applications and efficacy of Great Root medications, basic proportion plan of medications. Look at these precious books that Kuroka's took out. Ning Chuan didn't hesitate and accepted the order directly. Because he knows that if you want to learn pharmacy well, you must understand all drugs. Ning Chuan flipped through the books in his hands one after another, constantly using the power of the system to strengthen the knowledge he has already learned. Until all this knowledge penetrated into the depths of his mind. Time flies. A blink of an eye. Ning Chuan has already learned from day to night. Even when eating, Nokigao and Nami took turns feeding him. Looking at Ning Chuan with such perseverance, Kuroka's on the side couldn't help but admired in his heart. This kid is pretty awesome. So smart, talented, and so hardworking. It's really rare. After sighing, Kuroka's returned to his hut. Once again, I took out a large pile of books. He wanted to see how amazing Ning Chuan's learning speed could be. Until the next morning, when the sun climbed above the horizon. Ning Chuan finally finished studying all the books, research notes and general potion formulas that Kuroka's took out. As he closed the last book, Ning Chuan feels that he should have become an outstanding pharmacy master now. Have you finished learning these things? He looked at Ning Chuan, who stood up and moved around using kunquan. Kuroka's exclaimed in disbelief. Finished studying. I have to say, pharmacy is really profound. Mr. Kuroka's, I admire your research. Looking at Ning Chuan's extremely relaxed expression at this time, Kuroka's couldn't help but swallowed. Good guy. My decades of research on pharmaceuticals were mastered by this kid in one night. What a joke. Although Kuroka's couldn't believe it in his heart. But he was not testing Ning Chuan's ideas. After all, I have experienced changes in attitude from doubt to shock several times before. Kuroka's is now a little numb. You kid, you are so perverted. Kuroka's shook his head helplessly. Then, he reached his hand to his waist and took out 2 yellowed pieces of paper. These 2 pieces of yellowed paper were densely written with small characters. Ning Chuan took a cursory look and judged that what was recorded on it were the formulas of 2 potions. These 2 recipes are my special skills. Originally I wasn't going to teach you, but after thinking about it, it would be a waste for me to hold it, so I might as well let you take a look. It would be great if you could improve on these 2 prescriptions. Kurokas shook his head helplessly. Finally, he began to explain to Ning Chuan what the 2 formulas were used for. This formula is the potion I used for Roger at that time. It allows him to temporarily ignore his physical pain and maintain the best condition until death. But unfortunately, such a prescription has serious side effects, which will further aggravate his virus and shorten his survival time. Ning Chuan took the prescription from Kurokas's mouth in his hand. He glanced through it roughly. In his current capacity as potion master, it is not difficult to see the efficacy and side effects of such a prescription ratio. If Roger doesn't take this medicine, he should be able to live twice as long. However, his condition may be much worse. Ning Chuan looked at the prescription and thought for a moment before giving his own analysis. Kurokas heard Ning Chuan's guess and couldn't help but take another look at him. Because Ning Chuan's analysis is quite right. You can analyze so many things just by looking at the prescription. Is this kid already a master of medicine? What an incredible boy. Kurokas sighed in his heart. The first prescription was introduced. Kurokas turned his attention to another prescription in his hand. But when he looked at another prescription in his hand, there was a rare look of excitement in Kurokas's eyes. This second medicine formula I want to teach you is a body-strengthening formula. It is the last medicine I researched. Because it has too high requirements and must be taken by young people who are no more than 15 years old. No one has actually used it yet. Having said this, Kurokas glanced at Ning Chuan very excitedly and said, after using this medicine, the user's physical strength and injury recovery speed can be continuously improved in the next few decades. Especially after experiencing a lot of battles, its medicinal effect will be further exerted. At this point, Kurokas suddenly stopped. He looked at Ning Chuan helplessly, and then shook his head. Although this prescription is powerful, the price is that your lifespan may be greatly affected. After listening to Kuroka's narration, Ning Chuan directly gave his analysis. So, its principle is to make people become stronger quickly by constantly squeezing their potential, right? Kurokas did not answer, but nodded silently. I've put everything I've learned my whole life into this recipe. But I couldn't figure out how to improve it further. After hesitating for a moment, Kurokas put the prescription in Ning Chuan's hand. There is a pharmacy laboratory that I have set up in the lighthouse. The materials needed for the pharmacy experiments are basically there. If you have an idea, you can try it. Ning Chuan took the formula, studied it carefully for a while, and already had a plan in mind. He looked at Nami and the others, wondering if this potion could be improved to eliminate its side effects. Maybe it can help Nami and the others quickly improve their strength. Although Nami and the others didn't say anything about their own strength. But Ning Chuan knew that they actually wanted to become stronger to help him. There are many ways to become stronger, such as devil fruits or hard work. But Ning Chuan didn't want them to eat devil fruits. After all, if you eat the devil fruit, you will be afraid of seawater. This is your fatal weakness. But if they practice hard, Nami and the others are too young now. The speed of cultivation will not be too fast, which is also a big problem. But now, Kurokas has brought out a new type of potion. This is how Ning Chuan can help them become stronger quickly. Eliminate the side effects of the medicine. Then we must study more. Come to the pharmacy laboratory built by Kurokas at the bottom of the lighthouse. Ning Chuan discovered that although Kuroka's pharmacy laboratory was not large in area, but even though the sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs. All kinds of rare potions can be found here. According to Kuroka's prescription, Ning Chuan quickly found all the needed medicines. Prepare to start improving Kurokas's prescription. According to your own understanding of pharmacy, he first experimented by replacing several of the potions. After successful matching, relying on his immortal body, Ning Chuan raised his head and drank the bottle of potion in his hand. At the same time, he said silently in his heart, "System, start settlement. Congratulations to host for successfully mixing a new type of potion and activating the 10,000-fold return system. Start practice settlement now. Settlement is successful. Congratulations to host for successfully mixing the potion 10,000 times and returning the cultivation level. Host's ability to mix medicines has been greatly improved. I went through the systematic knowledge about potions in my mind. Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile. Yes, this saves me a lot of time. Just follow the closest matching plan. After saying that, Ning Chuan continued to match according to the new plan in his mind. System, continue settlement. Congratulations, host. Until half an hour later. There are still some impurities left in the medicine that can affect people's health. It can't be dealt with simply using potions, but if you use the ability to split the fruit into pieces, it should be no problem to remove it. Just do it. I saw Ning Chuan's heart moving. The next moment, the medicine in the bottle suddenly turned into countless small molecules. Ning Chuan successfully found the harmful part. Knock it all out. All that's left is the nearly perfect bottle of potion in my hand. It can greatly improve the body's strength and recovery ability. The more intense the battle, the more the potion's power can be stimulated. Otherwise, let's call you God of War Potion. Looking at the perfect bottle of potion in his hand, Ning Chuan finally showed a satisfied smile on his face. I have this bottle of potion in hand. It is much easier for Nami and the others to practice. Ning Chuan walked out of the laboratory holding the bottle of God of War Potion in his hand. Seeing Ning Chuan come out so quickly, Kurokas felt a little incredible. You succeeded. Kurokas spoke in disbelief. Success. I have made some improvements to your prescription, retaining its original efficacy and eliminating all side effects. Moreover, the efficacy of this bottle of potion has no age limit. I named it Aries Potion. Ning Chuan smiled and introduced the efficacy of the medicine in his hand to Kurokas. At the same time, he handed the only God of War Potion into the hands of Kurokas. Looking at the bottle of golden potion in his hand, Kurokas only felt that everything he experienced was somewhat magical. God of War Potion. Can such an almost perfect thing really appear in this world? Kurokas couldn't believe it no matter what. Looking at the expression of disbelief on Kurokas's face, Ning Chuan said with a smile, Mr. Kurokas, if you really don't believe it, you might as well try it yourself. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Kurokas couldn't help but be stunned. Can I try this perfect potion? Ning Chuan didn't speak, just smiled and nodded. For this first Aries potion, Ning Chuan thought it would be good to let Kurokas take it. After all, this is a prescription he invented, and he just improved it. What's more, the materials for developing potions are all obtained from him. Consider this God of War Potion as your own reward. Seeing Ning Chuan, he immediately acquiesced. Kurokas didn't hesitate and took the potion directly. It doesn't matter whether this bottle of medicine really has no side effects, as Ning Chuan said. He took it without hesitation. There is no other reason than trust in Ning Chuan. Ning Chuan's talent in medicine has impressed him from the bottom of his heart. Soon after taking the potion, Kurokas felt the changes in his body very clearly. He discovered that his body had deteriorated somewhat due to age. I am constantly recovering, and I feel like I want to reach the top. This feeling is incredible. Feel the changes coming from yourself. Kurokas couldn't help but exclaimed in amazement. Ning Chuan, you actually succeeded in improving the potion. I feel that the strength of my body is still growing. After hearing what Kurokas said, Ning Chuan seemed to have expected such a situation. He nodded very confidently. It seems that the God of War Potion has a good effect. However, if Mr. Kurokas could be a few decades younger, it might be able to help you improve your cultivation to a deeper level. Kurokas laughed upon hearing this. Ha ha ha, I am no longer needed as an old man. The world belongs to you young people, this thing should be used on you. However, if I guess correctly, the God of War Potion should be prepared for those little girls, right? You kid probably won't need it. After saying that, Kurokas did not forget to wink at Ning Chuan. I have to say that these old guys are really discerning. He saw at a glance Ning Chuan's purpose of making the God of War Potion. After saying this, Kurokas couldn't help but think of a very terrible thing. If Ning Chuan uses these medicines on ordinary people to build an army and train them continuously, it will not be difficult to reach the strength of an ordinary Marine Lieutenant General. Then how terrifying will this army composed of Lieutenant Generals be? Thinking of this, Kurokas couldn't help but glance at Ning Chuan. However, at this time, Ning Chuan had no idea of supplying the God of War Potion in large quantities. Seeing the perfect application of the God of War potion on Kuroka's, Ning Chuan returned to the laboratory again. Not long after, 4 bottles of perfect God of War potion appeared in Ning Chuan's hands. Ning Chuan brought these 4 bottles of God of War potion in front of Nami and the others. Each of them was given one. Look at these 4 golden potions. Nami and the others did not hesitate and took it directly according to Ning Chuan's instructions. Not long after, the power of the potion began to show up in their bodies. He was the first to feel the changes in his body. It is Kuina who practices the most on weekdays. She felt that her body suddenly became much stronger. The muscles and strength of the body have grown explosively in a very short period of time. This feeling is so wonderful. Soon, Nami, Nakigao and Uta came together. They all feel the power emerging from their bodies that can make them stronger. Watch their performance. Ning Chuan finally showed a satisfied smile. This way, Nami and the others' training will be much simpler. As the God of War potion continued to work on them, Nami, Nakigao, Kuina, and Uta immediately felt that their bodies had undergone tremendous changes. Their muscle strength is significantly improved, the muscle lines under the skin are more obvious, and the whole person looks more powerful. Perception ability has also been greatly improved, and you can clearly feel the flow of surrounding air and subtle sounds. Even the surroundings and atmosphere change. It simply opened the door to a new world for them. Nami clenched her fists, feeling an unprecedented power surge into her heart. She walked over to the cargo piled on the ship. He casually grabbed one of the bags of goods. As a result, I was surprised to find that I could now easily lift heavy objects that only Ning Chuan could move in the past. Nuo Chigao on the side was keenly aware of the movements around her. She sat on a rock by the sea. Listen carefully to the sound of seabirds flapping their wings in the distance, and watch the waves rolling on the sea. At this moment, it seems that the whole world becomes clearer. Kuina also felt the powerful power beginning to surge within her body. She began to feel a little hot all over. So he had no choice but to pick up the long sword in his hand and wave it on the spot. To her surprise, now every time she swings her sword, she can carry far more powerful power than before. Nami and the 4 of them now all feel the amazing changes that have taken place in themselves. So almost at the same time, everyone turned their attention to Ning Chuan. Looking at the few people with puzzled faces, Ning Chuan smiled and told them the effects of the God of War potion in detail, and gave serious instructions. After drinking the God of War potion, you will have to practice hard in the future. I will supervise you. After listening to Ning Chuan explain the efficacy of the God of War potion, Nami and the others had a hint of excitement on their faces. They all said that they would definitely work hard to practice in the future. In this way, Ning Chuan and the others stayed at Shuangzi Cape for 2 more days. During these 2 days, after using the God of War potion, Nami and the others cooperated with the training plan set by Ning Chuan for them. Their physical strength has improved significantly, and there were no adverse reactions. This made Ning Chuan very satisfied with the effect of the God of War potion. I don't know where Vegapunk's Seraph plan is now. If I can get some green blood, I can research and improve it. Then Nami and the others' physiques can be further strengthened. Ning Chuan thought for a moment and decided to go to Dantu Island to see it in the future. After a few more days, I got tired of staying in Twin Capes. Ning Chuan is ready to continue sailing with his 4 little cuties to conquer the Great Route. Seeing that Ning Chuan and the other 5 were leaving, there was actually a trace of reluctance in Kurokas's eyes. After spending the past few days together, he really liked staying with these children. Also reluctant to leave is Laboon the whale. However, before leaving, Ning Chuan told Rab a piece of news. That is the Rumba pirates it has been waiting for, and a guy named Brooke is still alive. However, he is now trapped in the Devil's Triangle and cannot come back to see it. After getting the news from Ning Chuan, Laboon was stunned for a moment. Then there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. It winked at Ning Chuan, seeming to express its gratitude. Then he was ready to leave Twin Capes and look for the Devil's Triangle area that Ning Chuan said. Although Kurokas was a little reluctant to leave Laboon the whale, but there was still no resistance. After all, keeping Laboon in Twin Capes is a kind of torture for him. But not before the whale Laboon left. Kurokas asked Ning Chuan for a large amount of the God of War potion for Laboon. Feed Laboon and drink it himself. Kurokas is naturally very aware of the dangers on the Grand Line. He wanted to help his old friend improve his strength, so that it can survive on the Grand Line. Watching the whale after Laboon left, Kurokas's eyes fell on Ning Chuan. Boy Ning Chuan, where are you going next? We're getting ready to head to Alabasta. Hear the words. Kurokas nodded, seeming to be recalling Alabasta's appearance in his impression. After a moment, Kurokas responded seriously. Alabasta is a good place with a unique desert style, delicious food and fun things. You can have a good time there. Finished. He dug into his pocket, took out an eternal record pointer, and handed it to Ning Chuan. This is the eternal record pointer to Alabasta. On the Grand Route, this is the only thing that can point the direction, otherwise it will be easy to get lost on the sea. Ning Chuan took the eternal record pointer handed over by Kurokas and nodded to him with a smile. Kurokas also smiled and patted Ning Chuan on the shoulder. Then take care of yourself, your adventure on the Great Voyage has just begun. After leaving Twin Capes, Ning Chuan and the 5 of them sailed at sea for many days. Only this time I went to sea. Ning Chuan began to strictly supervise the practice of the 4 people who drank the God of War potion Nami. Although the amount of daily practice set by Ning Chuan for them is not much, but it is still a challenge for them. Several people are often exhausted. After practicing, he no longer even played mahjong with Ning Chuan. However, as the saying goes, everything is difficult at the beginning. After several days of practice, Nami and the others gradually adapted to the intensity of this practice. At the same time, he also made a lot of progress in his cultivation. The one who improved the most was Kuina. She has always been the most active practitioner among the 4. Now her swordsmanship has reached the level of Marine Lieutenant Commander. Ning Chuan felt that it would take some time. When Kuina's strength improves a little more, you can start teaching her basic combat abilities, such as the most basic moonwalk, shaving, etc. Among the 4, Uta made the least progress. However, since she was the youngest, Ning Chuan did not give her too many cultivation tasks. Despite this, Uta still completed every practice task seriously. Gradually begin to lay the foundation for your body. Just like that, another 2 weeks passed. Ning Chuan and the others were tired of the food on the ship and wanted to find a small island with people to change their taste. Just when they were all looking forward to rushing to Alabasta. Finally, through the telescope, I saw the port of Alabasta. Ning Chuan stood on the bow of the ship, looking at the unique desert scenery in the distance. He smiled and spoke to Nami and the others who were practicing. Finally here, Alabasta. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Nami and the others immediately put down their practice and gathered around the boat excitedly, looking at the scenery of the port. Alabasta's port is bustling with activity. All kinds of merchant ships and cargo ships come and go. The market on the shore is full of people and full of exotic atmosphere. Finally here, Nuo Chigao shouted happily, I can't wait to try the food here. Nami also nodded excitedly. I heard there are many unique specialties here, I must go shopping. I haven't spent all the last salary I received. Although Uta is the youngest, he is also very excited. It looks so lively here, and the music is also good. Kuina also changed from her usual state and touched the sword in her hand. It seems that she wants to find a place to test her current strength. Ning Chuan looked at them with a smile, his heart full of satisfaction. It feels great to watch Nami and the others grow up. Everyone, get ready, let's go ashore. Go take a good look at Alabasta, one of the 20-nation alliance of world governments. Ning Chuan and the others had just stepped onto the street of Alabasta. I saw a large group of people gathered in front of me, seemingly listening to some speech. If you see something happening, go join in. Ning Chuan will naturally not miss it. Sitting on his shoulders were little Uta and Kuina, holding Nami in one arm and Nokigao in the other. Pushing through the immobile crowd, I squeezed into the middle. When Ning Chuan turned his gaze to the center of the speech, a familiar figure caught his eye immediately. Ning Chuan knows the person who is giving a speech on stage. He has a shiny back and a huge scar on his face that stretches from his left ear to his right ear. There is a cigar in his mouth, and a shiny golden hook replaces his left hand. The first time he saw this man, Ning Chuan immediately recognized his identity. Isn't this Crocodile who is more than 10 years younger? He calculated the time. It is discovered that Crocodile should be defeated by Whitebeard now. He had to temporarily retreat to Alabasta, preparing to survive and overthrow the Alabasta dynasty. The history of Crocodile's origins. Ning Chuan naturally knew it very well. When looking at Crocodile again, Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile. Sure enough, his guess was right. At this time, Crocodile was standing on the stage giving a speech with high spirits. And beneath him lay a large group of pirates who had been defeated by him. Ning Chuan knew very well that Crocodile was doing this to leverage on his achievements in fighting pirates in Alabasta. Create a heroic image for yourself, paving the way for the next plan. Crocodile wants to win the trust of the people of Alabasta through this method. Then use dancing powder that can interfere with the weather and hinder natural rainfall. Let the Alabasta kingdom, which already has little rain, directly face a terrible drought. Finally, with the help of disaster, he began to overthrow the Alabasta dynasty. Make himself the new master of Alabasta. Recall the plot of the original work. Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile and said to Nami and the others. It seems that the timing of our arrival in Alabasta is really coincidental. We happened to meet this ambitious guy who was about to start trouble. After hearing Ning Chuan's words, Nami asked curiously. Who is this man? Do you know him? He's Crocodile. A very dangerous and ambitious guy. Don't pretend to be a hero in Alabasta now, but in fact he has greater ambitions. He wants to overthrow the Alabasta dynasty and become the king himself. Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Kuina clenched the sword in her hand and looked at Crocodile with a wary expression. Then what are we going to do? Expose him directly? Ning Chuan shook his head. There's no rush, it's still a long time before his plan is implemented. Let's play here for a few days, and then we can clean him up before leaving without delay. After saying that, Ning Chuan led the four of them out of the crowd. Just as they were leaving, Crocodile's eyes were directly fixed on Ning Chuan. Because what he said just now was heard by Crocodile, who had not forgotten what he had seen and heard. At this time, Crocodile was very shocked. I remember that I had never told anyone about this plan. But what he couldn't understand was, how did the boy with 4 little girls know his final plan? No, when the speech is over, we must go to him to investigate this matter. Crocodile already regards Ning Chuan as his enemy. However, he who was giving a speech did not stop because of this incident. Soon after, Crocodile's speech came to an end. I saw him waving the golden hook in his hand and promising to the people listening to his speech. As long as I, Crocodile, am here, these pirates will never even think about the land of Tatu Alabasta. Come on one, I'll take him down. Come here and I'll kill them all. The speech is over. The crowd burst into warm applause. Many ordinary Alabasta citizens became grateful to Crocodile. Since this Shichibukai came to their Alabasta, the security situation in Alabasta is much better than before. He can fight pirates much more powerfully than the useless kingdom army and marines. After the crowd dispersed, Crocodile glanced at the direction in which Ning Chuan and the others disappeared. He snorted coldly in his heart, and instantly turned into dust and left the place where he was speaking. After leaving the crowd, Ning Chuan smiled and spoke to Nami and the others. Let's find a place to stay first. After we find a place to stay, we can start shopping again. Soon, Ning Chuan and the others found the most luxurious hotel near the port. After all, it has been floating on the sea for so long. Don't treat yourself badly. After putting away your luggage, Ning Chuan and the other 5 walked out of the hotel happily. Start to seriously feel the beautiful desert style. At the same time, Crocodile, who turned into sand and disappeared, did not go directly to trouble Ning Chuan and the others. Instead, he came to the port very cautiously. At a glance, he saw the ship docked at the port with the heads of Ning Chuan and the others painted on it. This should be the boat of those little guys, right? Go up and see where these little monsters come from. You can actually guess my plan. Just do it. Crocodile took advantage of the fact that no one was around. He once again activated his devil fruit power. It turned into countless amounts of sand and dust and floated towards Ning Chuan's boat. However, what Crocodile didn't expect was, already elementalized, he had just approached Ningxuan's boat. He immediately felt an extremely terrifying and dangerous aura coming towards him. He still hasn't figured out what happened. A terrifying sound came from my ears. Whoa! A sword light flew directly towards Crocodile's position. If it weren't for his knowledge and domineering power, he could foresee the danger in advance. This terrifying sword light was about to fall on him. Crocodile moved his body violently, allowing his vital points to avoid this fatal sword energy. However, his arm was still scratched by the sword energy. A gash a few centimeters long was left. Sword energy with armed domineering energy. Who is he? Crocodile couldn't help but narrowed his eyes and looked at the place where the sword energy struck. He originally thought that there was a swordsman staying on Ningxuan's ship. But what he didn't expect was, there was no human presence on the ship at all. All there is a sword floating above the boat. When Crocodile discovered that what was blocking him was actually a sword, he couldn't help but be shocked. Is this a sword that no one controls? It seemed to stop itself entirely by instinct. If I can take it as my own, then my strength will be further improved. Thinking of this, Crocodile immediately became greedy. He thought that if he could get this sword that could attack independently, then his strength will definitely increase greatly, and he can even return to the new world to challenge Whitebeard. To avenge myself. The more Crocodile looked at the sword standing in the air, the more he liked it. After making up your mind, Crocodile decided that even if he was seriously injured next, he would take down this sword. However, direct grabs are not his style. Before snatching the Thunder Fire sword, he straight back up from the pile of dust. People at the port saw Crocodile appearing here. Immediately there was thunderous applause and began to cheer for Crocodile. Look, that's Crocodile, who's been in the spotlight lately. Oh my god, it's really him. Why did he appear at the port? Could it be that there are pirates coming to the port again? I'm not sure, but if there are really pirates, we'd better stay away. Don't be afraid, Lord Crocodile will definitely protect us. Watching more and more people gather, Crocodile showed a sneer on his face. But he still pretended to care about everyone. He spoke to everyone with a serious expression. Run, my opponent this time is extraordinary. But no matter how strong the opponent is, I will do my best to protect you and retreat safely. Say it. Crocodile was seen using the power of the Shasha fruit with all his strength. With a wave of his hands, yellow sand swept up from the sky, instantly covering the port in a cloud of dust. Everyone retreat quickly. The pirates this time are very vicious, let's run. We can't hold back Mr. Al of Croc. Lord Crocodile used sand to cover the pirates, view for us. He is really good. Crocodile is really a hero. When I grow up, I will become a hero like Lord Crocodile. In a chorus of gratitude, people at the port are evacuating quickly. However, the reality is completely opposite to what they imagined. Crocodile's purpose was to create such a large area of sand and dust that could obscure his vision. In fact, he wanted to take this opportunity to forcibly take away the Thunder Fire sword on Ningxuan's ship. Looking at the clouds and sun floating all over the sky, the smile on Crocodile's face couldn't help but become wild. Humph, a bunch of idiots. This way no one will know that I took this magical sword. After saying that, Crocodile stared at the Thunder Fire sword. Then, under his control, the sand in the sky was like a salon, quickly sweeping towards the Thunder Fire sword. It seems to want to trap it in the sand so that it can no longer move freely. However, the Thunder Fire sword showed no sign of weakness. The sword began to glow with the light of lava and thunder. At the moment when the dust from the sky hits it, fire and lightning intertwined on the blade, and the hot lava and the power of thunder reflected each other. In an instant, it was like a natural disaster suddenly broke out at the port. The sand collides violently with the power of the Thunder Fire sword. The salons were melted by the lava, and the thunder blasted the salons to pieces. Seeing his salon being severely shattered, Crocodile began to change his attack methods. His body turned into yellow sand and quickly shuttled through the port, trying to attack the Thunder Fire sword from all angles. But what he didn't expect was that the Thunder Fire sword was even faster. Every swing brought a thunderous roar, and countless lava spurted out. The sand coming from Crocodile was shattered into pieces. Hateful, a sword can be so difficult to handle. Crocodile gritted his teeth unwillingly. Then, he concentrated all his strength, and the sand condensed into a huge sand hand. Falling from the sky, he slammed down on the thunder fire sword. I want to completely suppress the thunder fire sword. However, the thunder fire sword rushed straight up against Shasho, the sword's body glowing with blazing lava light. As soon as the sword was thrust out, the sand hand was instantly melted by the lava, turning into dust and dissipating in the sky. The battle between one man and one sword gradually became fierce. Crocodile was already scarred at this time, but the thunder fire sword was still shining brightly and was unscathed. This moment, Crocodile finally realized that he seemed to be no match for this sword. Hateful, now I can't even fight with a sword. Have I become so corrupt since being defeated by Whitebeard? Crocodile was very unwilling, but he knew that if the fight continued, he would probably be cut off by this sword. In desperation, he could only look at Thunder Fire Sword hatefully, prepare to elementalize and run away directly. However, just when he turned around and was about to escape, the Thunder Fire Sword rushed forward without hesitation. For a moment, the entire sword's armed color was filled with domineering aura, which was astonishing. The moment Crocodile was about to turn into sand, it aimed at Crocodiles and poked it hard. Ah! A roar that shocked the entire port came directly from Crocodile's mouth. The people who were running away were all startled by Crocodile's roar and stopped in their tracks. Is that Lord Crocodile's voice? Why does it sound so scary? It's bad. It seems that even Lord Crocodile can't handle our opponent this time. Then what are you waiting for? You will die if you run. Run. At the same time, Ning Chuan was wandering on the streets of Alabasta with his four little cuties Nami, Nokigao, Kuina and Uta. They walked into the entrance of a busy restaurant and saw that it was full of people. So I was ready to go in and have a taste of the local specialties. However, as soon as Ningchuan and the others walked in, they found a blue-haired girl about the same age as them. He was happily chewing on a piece of meat with a bone stick. While the blue-haired girl was eating, she was chatting with the guests in the hotel about Crocodile's heroic deeds. It seems that she is very curious about Crocodile. Look at the blue-haired girl. Ning Chuan recognized it at a glance. This girl was Vivi, the princess of the Alabasta kingdom. He is also one of the three legendary ancient weapons, the awakener of Pluton's power. Next to Vivi, stood a sturdy curly-haired bodyguard named Ikaram. He is extremely loyal to the royal family of Alabasta. I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. Here we meet Vivi, the princess of Alabasta. Ning Chuan looked at Vivi carefully and couldn't help but smile. While Ning Chuan looked at Vivi, Vivi also noticed Ning Chuan's gaze. She discovered that the five of them, Ning Chuan, were all children about the same age as herself. And looking at their attire, you can tell that they must be from other places. Vivi couldn't help but be curious about this. She felt that it was really remarkable that Ningchuan and the others went to sea at such a young age. So she took the initiative to step forward, stretched out her little hand to Ning Chuan, and introduced herself with a smile. Hello, friends from afar. My name is Vivi, can we get to know each other? Seeing that Vivi actually came up to say hello to me. Naturally, Ning Chuan couldn't lose his etiquette. Hello, Princess Vivi, my name is Ningchuan, and they are my sailing partners, Nami, Nokigao, Kuina and Uta. After listening to Ning Chuan's introduction, Vivi couldn't help showing a trace of doubt in her eyes. Ikarim, who is responsible for Weiwei's safety, is on the side. He stared at Ning Chuan with vigilance. Why did you call me princess? I heard Vivi's words. Ning Chuan couldn't help but smile. Princess Vivi, the guard beside you has the iconic curly hair on his head, but his identity can be revealed at a glance. What's more, this bodyguard uncle keeps his hands on his waist and looks around him very vigilantly. Most people don't have such a habit. Are you right, Alabasta's royal guard chief, Ikaram? After Ning Chuan finished speaking, Ikaram suddenly showed a shocked look on his face. He looked at Ning Chuan with some surprise, and was very surprised by the meticulousness of his observations. Ha ha, Uncle Ikaram, you have been discovered. After listening to Ning Chuan's analysis, Vivi looked at Ikaram up and down. Then he burst into laughter. At this time, Ikaram's face was covered with black lines. His identity was discovered by a kid with no hair on his head. This is so embarrassing, but because of this, Ikaram's vigilance towards Ning Chuan has gone up a few levels. He stared at Ning Chuan. As long as Ning Chuan dares to do anything excessive to Vivi, he doesn't mind letting Ning Chuan taste the fist of the guard chief. However, Ning Chuan didn't care about Ikarem's hostility towards him. In his eyes, Ikarem's little fighting power is really not enough. You went to sea on your own at such a young age. That's amazing. Where did you come from? Where are you going? Vivi stared at Ning Chuan and the others for a long time. Finally he couldn't help but ask. We came from the East China Sea and are on an adventure on the Grand Route. Since you are a princess, can we make friends and take me to your palace to see it? Nami, a little money fan, directly connected with Vivi's words. She was very curious about Alabasta's palace. Nami wants to see the difference between the palace in Alabasta and the palace in the Land of Music. Hear Nami's response. Vivi's eyes widened in surprise. Wow, from the East China Sea. You guys are so awesome. Unlike me, when I go to the beach, I have to be followed by someone. Hearing Wei Wei's somewhat disappointed words, Nokigao had a sly look in his eyes. She looked Vivi up and down, and suddenly felt that it wouldn't be wrong to have a beautiful princess from a big country on board. So, she very sensibly spoke on behalf of Ning Chuan. If Princess Vivi wants to go to sea, you can consider coming to our ship. We are about the same age, it will definitely be fun if we go on adventures together. Nuo Chigao's words, for a princess who grew up in the palace. Very tempting. Really, can I also go out on adventures with you? Vivi's eyes are full of surprise. The moment she heard Nuo Chigao's invitation, her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. Cough, cough. Princess Vivi, please stay calm. It's very dangerous on the sea. You are the princess of Alabasta, so you can't follow them around. Ikaram looked at Vivi's appearance at this time. I was suddenly shocked. Good guy, these little brats are here to kidnap my princess. Fortunately, I came with Princess Vivi, otherwise, Princess Vivi might have been abducted by them. At this time, Ikaram looked at Ning Chuan and the five of them with alert eyes. Several times more than before, I heard Ikaram's disappointing words. Vivi curled her lips in dissatisfaction. Hey, this uncle. Although it is dangerous on the sea, with brother Ning Chuan here, we are still safe. Even my dad said that the four emperors might not be a match for brother Ning Chuan. As long as sister Vivi wants to go on adventures with us, there is no need to worry about her safety. Uta jumped on the stool, very dissatisfied with what Ikaram just said. The four emperors are no match for this kid. Regarding the little girl Uta, Ikaram wanted to laugh when he heard this. This cute little girl, I'm afraid she still doesn't know what the concept of four emperors is, right? So, with a hint of joking tone, Ikaram lowered his head, put an old face close to Uta's side, and said with a smile. Little girl, who is your father? Is he famous? How dare you say such exaggerated words? At this time, in Ikaram's heart, I guess Uta's father is a guy who has never seen the world. After seeing Ning Chuan's strength beyond ordinary people, I thought he could defeat even the four emperors. Oh, what a poor little girl. She was tricked into going to sea at such a young age. Just when Ikaram felt sorry for Uta and the other little girls who were sold by Ning Chuan and helped him count the money, Uta's plain and pleasant voice suddenly rang in Ikaram's ears. I remember my dad said that he seemed to be quite famous. By the way, uncle, my dad's name is Shanks, have you heard of him? Hear Uta say Shanks' name. Ikaram was stunned for a moment. Shanks, such a familiar name. Just when Ikaram hadn't realized who Shanks was. Behind them, there were several people at the next table who had been eavesdropping. I was so frightened that I fell off my chair. Shanks. The man with a bounty of billions, who almost became the four emperors in the New World. Oh my god, how come Shanks' daughter is in Alabasta? As soon as these words were spoken, suddenly, everyone in the restaurant looked at Xiao Yuta with extremely horrified eyes. The name Shanks is really scary. Even in Alabasta, thousands of miles away from the New World. This name can still shock some people speechless. Brother Ning Chuan, why do their expressions look so strange? Is my dad scary? Ning Chuan, Ikaram. Uta, be good, don't give your father's name casually in the future. Ning Chuan stretched out his hand and rubbed Yuta's head helplessly. Look at the current situation. If you want this meal to be delicious, it's not very likely. It's okay to leave it alone, don't gather here. I hate your looks. By the way, remember to settle the bill when you leave. Ning Chuan glanced at the shocked people around him. He directly persuaded them to leave with a hint of conqueror's domineering attitude. Obviously, under Ning Chuan's kind words, everyone tremblingly took out a few coins and pressed them on the table. Then he left the restaurant without saying a word. At this time, Ikarem's head was covered in cold sweat. What Ning Chuan said just now was really scary. He, the captain of the kingdom's guard, was almost frightened out of his wits by Ning Chuan's words. But even so, Ikarem did not forget his duty and blocked Vivi behind him. At the same time, people who had just left the restaurant. He still hasn't recovered from Ning Chuan's terrifying words just now. However, as they were walking, they suddenly remembered someone. Alabasta's new hero Crocodile. Hurry and find the hero Crocodile. Tell him a little pirate appeared here with the red-haired Shank's daughter. We must let him catch these lawless little pirates. Lord Crocodile, it's not good. Crocodile, who had just escaped from the port, was about to check the injury on his butt. His thoughts were disrupted by a burst of exclamation. In desperation, Crocodile had to endure the pain in his butt. I used some sand to block the bleeding wound. Pretending to be nonchalant, he looked at the group of Alabasta nationals running towards him. Don't panic, calm down first and explain things clearly. If there is any injustice, I will definitely handle justice for you. Crocodile looked serious. There was no hint that he was acting. Lord Crocodile, there's a scary guy coming to the most luxurious restaurant on the street. She said she was the red-haired Shank's daughter. They are very vicious pirate descendants, please go and capture them. As more and more restaurant diners found Crocodile, Crocodile also gradually began to believe what this group of people said. Red-haired Shank's daughter, the guy who almost became the four emperors. If she is really his daughter, if his daughter is captured, wouldn't I be able to become famous in Alabasta immediately? But the red-haired Shanks seems to be a troublesome guy. Upon hearing that there was a red-haired Shank's daughter in Alabasta, Crocodile's heart moved. But after thinking about the possible consequences of catching his daughter, he couldn't help but fell into deep thinking again. But soon, he made a decision in his heart. Humph, who cares about red hair and black hair? As long as I can overthrow the Alabasta kingdom as quickly as possible and find Pluton, one of the 3 legendary weapons, then I'm not afraid of the 4 emperors. What's more, a Shanks who hasn't become a 4 emperors yet. At this time, Crocodile will appear in Alabasta's Uta. Consider it your best chance to make a name for yourself. If successful, he will not only be regarded as a hero in Alabasta, it can also greatly speed up the progress of his plan to overthrow the Alabasta dynasty. Thinking of this, he looked at the group of people who reported the news to him. What does Shank's daughter look like? Tell me what you said. Seeing Alabasta, a hero who focuses on fighting pirates, he already had the idea of taking action. Some people immediately came forward to flatter him. There are 5 Shank's daughters in their group. One of them is a very handsome boy, and the other 4 are girls. As for Shank's daughter, she is the youngest and has red and white hair, which makes her easily identifiable. Hear these people describe Shank's daughter. Crocodile was shocked. Aren't these guys the same kids at the port just now? I see. No wonder they have such an outrageous weapon on their ship. I guess Shanks stayed here specifically to protect these little guys, right? Huh, but now, they are so far away from the port, even that sword can't protect them. After stringing it all together, all doubts have been solved in Crocodile's mind. At this time, he already had a new plan in mind. He felt that Ning Chuan and the other children must have dared to go to sea because of that sword. But now, the sword is no longer with them. As long as you catch these children, you can control that extremely powerful sword through them. Next, if I win over the children like Ning Chuan, I will be able to win. Then he will not only gain an excellent reputation, but also get an extremely powerful weapon. Simply kill 2 birds with 1 stone. As soon as this thought appeared, Crocodile immediately ignored the injury on his butt. He flew directly towards the restaurant where Ning Chuan and the others were. Those guys who came to ask Crocodile to take action. After seeing him leave, everyone's face showed excitement. Come on, let's go over together and see how Lord Crocodile catches the pirates. That's right, we are going to cheer for Lord Crocodile. I haven't seen Lord Crocodile take action for a long time. It's just a few little thieves, Lord Crocodile can easily handle them with one hand. At the same time, inside the restaurant, Ning Chuan saw Ikaram looking nervous and comforted him with a smile. Captain of the guard, don't be nervous, I don't have any ill intentions towards you. If I had any ill intentions towards you, do you think you could still sit here so peacefully? Hearing Ning Chuan's words, Ikaram's expression relaxed slightly. However, he still stood nervously in front of Vivi. Just anything wrong, he will always take a step forward to block all dangers for Vivi. Looking at the extremely nervous Ikaram, Vivi patted his back gently. Ikaram, sit down, I can feel that they really have no ill intentions. Despite this, Ikaram sat down again. But he still remained vigilant and stared at Ning Chuan and the others. Seeing this, Vivi showed a helpless smile towards Ning Chuan. In order to ease the awkward atmosphere at the scene, she took the initiative to change the topic. Start talking to Ning Chuan about Crocodile. Ning Chuan, from your perspective, what do you think of this hero who has been helping us eliminate pirates in Alabasta? Ning Chuan sneered and said disdainfully. Crocodile seems to be a hero, but in fact he has ulterior motives. His ultimate goal is to overthrow your Alabasta kingdom and take control of the country himself. Vivi frowned slightly, obviously not believing it. Ikaram, who was on the side, looked thoughtful at this moment. In fact, this time he followed Vivi to the port, in addition to protecting Vivi's safety. There is also another task, which is to see the real face of this, returned from evil, Shichibukai for the king. Vivi, who is new to the world, may not know. But King Cobra knows human nature very well. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Crocodile must have his purpose in eliminating pirates without sparing any effort. Just when Ning Chuan finished speaking, Crocodile's figure had appeared at the door of the restaurant at some unknown time. Ning Chuan's words just now seemed to be spoken to him on purpose. Let him hear every word without missing a word. At this time, Crocodile walked up to Ning Chuan and the others with a gloomy face and a sneer on his face. You little brats are so brave, how dare you slander me like this? Ning Chuan looked calm, looked directly at Crocodile, and said contemptuously. Slander, whether I am slandering or not, I think you should know best. In response to this, Crocodile couldn't help but snorted coldly, and said with a stern face. Everything I do is for the peace and tranquility of Alabasta. I have worked hard here for so long. How can you, a group of pirates, slander my achievements with just a few words? Descendants of the great pirate Shanks, I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. I don't like to attack little brats. I don't like taking action against little brats. As soon as Crocodile said these words, Nami, Nokigao, Kuina and Uta all looked at him with strange eyes. For some reason, Crocodile caught their eyes. I suddenly felt something bad in my heart. Why do these little girls look so strange? It seems like I'm looking at a fool. Such an idea suddenly appeared in Crocodile's mind. But he quickly put this strange idea behind him. In his opinion, they are just a few brats. You can kill them all without even using the power of the fruit. I bet 20 moves, he can beat Ning Chuan brother 20 moves at most. If I lose, I will be responsible for cleaning the ship for a week. Uta stared at Crocodile for a while, then suddenly spoke to Nami and the others. I bet 15 moves, Ning Chuan will definitely take him down within 15 moves. I'll bet on my hygiene for 2 weeks. Nami held his neck with his hand and stretched out his right hand to make a two-hand gesture. I'm like Nami, I bet on 15 moves. Nokigao hugged Nami's neck and said with a smile. 10 moves. If I lose, I'll have to pay for 3 weeks of hygiene. Kuina also made a rare bet. Just when they were arguing fiercely about which moves Ning Chuan could take down Crocodile. Crocodile on the side listened to their words. My face was almost turning green with anger. How dare these little brats look down on me like this? Without that sword, can you still make trouble in my hands? But he didn't have time to do it yet. Ning Chuan's voice suddenly rang in his ears. I said, you sword thief, could you please stop pretending to be righteous here? It's okay to be a thief in private, but how dare you stand up and make a fuss? My butt was stabbed with a sword. If I were you, I would be honest a long time ago. Hearing Ning Chuan point out his embarrassment without mercy, Crocodile turned red with anger for a moment. At the same time, he was very shocked. How did this kid know that his butt was stabbed with a sword? It was obvious that he had temporarily blocked the wound with sand. Looking at the surprised look on Crocodile's face, Ning Chuan smiled slightly and spoke as if he was explaining to Crocodile. The sword energy of the Thunderfire sword still remains on my butt. Tisk, tisk, it seems like you don't even know how to be a thief, but you still want to steal a country. Ning Chuan's naked ridicule directly raised Crocodile's anger to the extreme. How dare you talk nonsense when you are about to die? Be honest and let me catch you without any help. I'm going to send you all to the great prison under the sea. After saying that, Crocodile roared angrily. Ning Chuan was no longer given a chance to speak. Arc-shaped sand dune. A sand dune attack that was tens of meters long and looked like a crescent moon. He ran straight towards Ning Chuan and killed several people. It can be seen that this time, Crocodile is really angry. Directly in the restaurant, they launched an attack on Ning Chuan and all of them without distinction. He doesn't care if he accidentally hurts others. Facing Crocodile's slashing attack, Ning Chuan remained expressionless, with a hint of sneer on his face. Too weak, too lazy to fight with you. Barrier. Ning Chuan casually activated the ability of the barrier fruit, blocking Nami and Vivi behind the barrier. Crocodile's slash hit Ning Chuan's barrier as if it hit an iron plate. Not a single trace was left on the barrier created by Ning Chuan. Didn't you eat? This is a restaurant, why don't you have something to eat before continuing the fight? Ning Chuan's sarcastic words kept falling into Crocodile's ears. This made the anger in Crocodile's heart even stronger than before. Salon roll. This time, Crocodile was really angry. He no longer had any reservations. I saw two small tornadoes instantly thrown out of his hand. After these two tornadoes left Crocodile's hands, they instantly became much bigger. The entire restaurant was immediately involved. The strong wind swept the fine sand, like a cutting machine, and immediately ground all the buildings involved into pieces. Looks quite scary. However, Ning Chuan and others are at the center. He continued to sit behind the barrier in an extremely stable manner, carefully watching Crocodile's performance. Desert Tornado. What a cool fruit ability. This should be Logia's fruit ability, right? I'm going to compose a song when I get back, and it's going to have a desert tornado in it. Uta looked at the two giant tornadoes that seemed to be able to tear everything apart. I started thinking about my new song in my mind. I don't know who is more powerful between Logia's fruit ability and Ning Chuan's freezing and lava fruit abilities. Nami thought about it for a long time, but couldn't figure out which one was more powerful. I think they should be on the same level. They all have natural abilities. No one can do anything to the other. Nakigao came to his own conclusion. Humph, it's all in vain. Ning Chuan can destroy them all with one sword. Still great at swordsmanship, Kuina tightened her grip on the sword. It seems that he is thinking about how powerful his swordsmanship is to break the Logia Devil Fruit's ability. Vivi and Ikaram on the side looked at Nami and the four of them without any fear. There was an unbridled discussion about which devil fruit had the stronger power. This made the two of them feel a little unreal for a moment. Especially Ikaram. He felt that these children were too calm. You know, this is the most terrifying salon in the desert. The sand flying all over the sky can cut people into pieces. Not only were they not afraid, they even started chatting here calmly. This made Ikaram suddenly feel that this world was a little different from the world he knew. Aren't you all afraid? Vivi looked at the barrier in front of her that easily blocked the salon volume. I couldn't help but ask Nami and the others. Why be afraid? We have experienced many small scenes like this. Vivi, Ikaram. For a moment, Vivi was a little envious of Nami and the others. They are all about the same age. They can actually have such insight. If I sail with them, will I be as knowledgeable as them? A somewhat rebellious idea suddenly appeared in Vivi's mind. At the same time, while Nami and the others were chatting and laughing, Ning Chuan was gradually lost in thought as he watched the dust flying all over the sky and Crocodile's continuous attacks from the sand fruit. After a long time, I saw a smile suddenly appear on his face. Almost. System, start settlement. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.